Good morning, members, to our support staff, the minister, the deputy minister, the national director of public prosecutions, and all the colleagues that are here in the platform. Today, members who are receiving the annual performance plan and budget from the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development and the NPA. So we will allow the department to present the APP, but we'll give the minister to introduce the report as our own process that we have long introduced. Committee Secretary, do we have members that have apologized? I know that some of our members are out there in the oversight programs of other committees, but they did indicate that they are going to be in attendance, although they will be multitasking as they are in oversight programs of other committees. Committee Secretary, do you receive any apologies on your side?
Good morning, Chair. Good morning to the Minister and the team. I've got 4 apologies, Chair. The first one from Honorable Sotetsi, Honorable Bredenbach, Honorable Mani, and Honorable Denner. Honorable Denner indicated that if we're not done by 12, then she will join us. Those are the only 4 that I have so far, Chair.
Okay, thank you. We know that Honorable Bredenbach is outside the country. She did indicate in a different platform. It's fine. Let's proceed. Minister.
Chair.
Honorable Mhlala.
I'm also, good morning, and the team. I'm also gonna leave early if you don't see me, but Honorable Mazwi Bloss is here to stand on behalf of the EFF. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Mhlala. Honorable Bloss, good morning. Okay. Minister, can you proceed?
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, honorable members. Thank you very much for allowing us to be here to present our annual performance plan as the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development. I am joined on the call by the Deputy Minister of Justice, Honorable Nell, joined by the National Director of Public Prosecutions, Advocate Mutibi, joined by the Acting Director General, Ms. Pillay, and DDGs. Will introduce them, Chair, as we go, and together with the team from NPA. We are presenting today our annual performance plan in the context, Chair. As you know, we have the on capacity, because we, as the portfolio, are under one of the targets in terms of the MTDP. It's on building capable and ethical developmental state. And that speaks firstly to capacity in the department and its program or organizations that are falling there, or entities. The first is the appointment of the NDPP that has been made by the President. We are looking at, Chair, by the end of April, that we're looking around within the week or 2 to have the appointment of NPS head and also AFU. These are DNDPPs. Just to indicate, the DPP in Eastern Cape will be going on retirement, and therefore that process as well will be done. Since the last time we appeared in terms of our report or annual plan, we have had the president appointing the DPP Mpumalanga, which was acting for some time, so that post has been filled. In terms of the department chair, we can safely say we currently in the process of recruitment through the presidency for the Director General of the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development, following the departure of Advocate Mashabane, who left at the beginning of this year. And also one of those that we will start recruit to, that will have to start recruiting, is the 2 DDG posts. The one that is headed, that responsible for ICT. We currently have a secondment from SIU, who is helping us as the acting head of that branch, Tumelo, who is assisting us in that regard. Especially members would remember ICT has been one of the key issues that Portfolio Committee has raised with us, and will be giving you what we are doing in that regard to rebuild and deal with that. DDG Tlhajwayo has since resigned at the beginning of his DC process and left the department. Just to also report that DDG TT, you would have seen in the news, has been appointed as head of FIC. So we'll have to look into that. We have, since the last time we were here, appointed through lateral transfer the DDG Corporate Services, DDG Ngwenya Rulani, who is also part of our team, started towards the end of the year last year. On the work that we are doing, Chair, just to give a highlight. One, you'd note that the president had committed to ensuring that there's independence and single judiciary that is taking place, that we see that implementation on the context of implementing our constitution. What I can safely say, Chair, is that in line of that, we had committed that from the 1st of April 2026, the shared services from Department of Justice and Constitutional Development will be transferred to the OCJ. When we present tomorrow as well with the OCJ, you will see that probably, that outline how those shared services are received and what are the plans there. But just to say that has come into effect, and we'll start the legislative development process in terms of that work for this financial year. Chair, we can safely say as well, in terms of the commitments that have been made from our side in terms of rebuilding. We have done an analysis because Portfolio Committee and members of the public have had an outcry in terms of our ICT. We've done an analysis to see where actually the problem is. We had Rolls Royces that were parked in a shack, and therefore they couldn't move because the environment was not conducive. So we had to go back and say, in terms of our ICT as the department, where are we? Why are we failing the master's office, the state attorneys? You cannot have anything working. And then we realized that we had to do an analysis, got the teams to help us, and eventually with also private sector helping. And we were able to identify one. We had huge numbers of vendors. So you had more than 24 of service providers just in ICT. And when you look and do analysis of that, then you'd find that actually there's duplication of things, and the head, Tumelo, will speak to that at some point when we deal with detail if members wants to go into those. For example, you'd find a software that exists, but it's a duplicate. The other one is switched off and all those things. So all those things have been sorted out. Now we know in terms of learn and when, which is a basic infrastructure that needs to be in place. Where are we and what we need? We've said that based on our MTF allocation, we will implement it in a phased-in approach so that we can be able to close the gaps that exist. So that's one of the issues I want to flag up front, to say this is what we intend to do. We've listened to the Portfolio Committee, and that will respond to even what is happening at masters, what is happening at state attorneys. We are implementing the turnaround strategies in 2 areas that we have committed to, the state attorneys and the masters. Chair, you would have seen last week, in the weeks ago, we held our stakeholder meeting to verify, even on the issues of transformation, against what we are doing with the practitioners. And we've put in place a mechanism to overcheck, to cross-check what we are doing, so that the sector we don't speak against what the sectors are. On the NPA, Chair, you would note that we have up to the targets, so that we can be able to show our seriousness in the work that we are doing, collaborative work between ourselves as a portfolio with other justice system, other justice portfolios or other departments within the portfolio are critical, and we remain that. Chair, in terms of our work, you would know that as the department, we are responsible for ensuring the effective functioning and financial support for the commissions. The two commissions that are currently in place, Madlanga Commission, Khampempe Commission, and also the inquiry. What we have been able to do, and I think this we are engaging with Treasury, but to be upfront, we've been able to fund the current operations with the extensions in terms of the work that is being done. The Nkabinde inquiry, Treasury takes this as a DC process, which I've been saying, even we had a discussion with the NDPP. I said, this DC process is very expensive. Where you spend millions for just the DC, we've got to find a mechanism to deal with it. So it's not funded differently by Treasury. So they don't take it as a commission. We're still engaging, but we do have concerns about that funding, because we now have to carry that cost as the department, which is quite a high cost. Number two, in relation to Madlanga Commission with the initial allocation funds, Chair, I can safely say they've kept to the budget or even below the budget. They've been performing very well. And also we should be able to I've written to Minister of Finance to be able to allocate money for us for the extension until August, so that we have that assurance of carrying that, because it means we're going to have to fund it from our departmental baseline together with the Khampempe Commission from the departmental baseline, and we wanted assurance from Minister of Finance to being able to give us these resources so that we don't kill critical performance areas in the department. But in the current, they have given us the past money that we had requested. Safe to say with the Khampempe, it had a shortfall, which we had to close ourselves. I think the CFO will just flag that when she speaks. But going forward with the current, I've written to Minister of Finance to say these are the shortfalls that we have as the department to support these commissions in order for them to fulfill their responsibilities, and we are requesting them to support us in that regard, because we can safely say they are doing a great job. They should be supported, and we've committed ourselves as the department that will continue to support them and therefore make sure that we are able to negotiate with Treasury. But Minister of Finance had committed to me that he will make sure that he supports us in that regard. Chair, in the issues that the President has raised in State of the Nation address, I can safely say work is in progress. You'll find some of the issues clearly articulated in our APP, others because there would be more so around what we have already done. For example, the issues of protected disclosure or whistleblower protection, we have already gone out for public comments. The closing date is 14 May for the public to be able to make inputs, and therefore we'll be bringing that legislation. So we do have a legislative program that we can be able to share with the portfolio committee for the remainder of this administration, so that members of the portfolio committee through you, Chair, can monitor the legislative work, but also you can be able to plan properly. That has been submitted to the Deputy President, who in turn submitted to the Speaker's office in terms of our legislative program. Criminal Procedure Act, we still intend to review. The NPA Act remains a critical area that we want to review. There were delays because we had agreed with the NDPP. There are things that, as I say, as we pick up this DCs and others, are actually hamstringing NPA because they are in the Act and should have been something that are in the regulation or even in policy, but are embedded in the Act and therefore should be out. So we want to make sure that there's that work that is being done. SIU Act will be reviewed as well. Together with the Public Protector Act, we have committed. Some of these acts are already done, should be on your table very soon, members, in a month or two, in terms of that. So I thought, let me just highlight some of these things which are critical, Chair, so that when the team presents, at least I would have given this highlight of where we are on issues, and how we are doing, and we can be able to, others will respond if there's anything members are interested in that I didn't touch that they would want to. I'll hand over to the Acting Director General in the room where they are sitting. I was meant to be there, but I'm not well. I didn't want to get them sick. So we've got them in one room to make it easier for the presentation, but we'll ask one person to do the presentation and then followed by the CFO who will take on the finances, and then all the other DDGs ourselves will be able to make those comments when we come back in terms of the questions. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you so much, Minister. Acting DG.
Good morning, Chairperson and the members of the committee. Good morning, Minister and Deputy Minister. We would like to share the presentation now. Thank you, Chair. Our presentation is about 61 slides as submitted to the committee. This year, Chair, you will note the theme of our presentation is celebrating 30 years of the Constitution. This year we are celebrating 30 years of the 30-year anniversary of the signing of our Constitution into law. And this is some of our new logos that we are presenting. Committee members would have noted that we have embarked upon quite a few programs since the start of the year, and we will intensify as we go forward. And one of the targets is in the APP annual performance. Next. Chair, the presentation is made up of, there's a brief introduction. We speak to the legislative mandate as an overview. We then present our vision, mission, and values, our departmental strategic approach. Then we talk importantly to the alignment of the plan with the medium-term development plan, and which used to be the strategic plan of government, but it's now called the MTDP, and with our SONA commitments, which is the State of the Nation address commitments that were made by the President. Then we set out our measuring our performance in terms of the indicators and the targets. We set out our APP risks, and then we provide the alignment of the performance with the budget that has been allocated to the department. Thank you, Chair. So on the introduction and the background, we prepared our annual performance plan as is required by the revised framework for strategic plans. We had to submit the first and the second drafts to the Department of Monitoring and Evaluation in the Presidency and the National Treasury. We've complied with those requirements. The APP was approved by the Minister and tabled by the 30th of March 2026. The 2026 Annual Performance Plan is aligned to the Departmental Strategic Plan, the Medium-Term Development Plan, and the State of the Nation Address commitments that are relevant to the department. Our legislative framework, Chair, I will do a brief overview and not mention all the legislation, but I must also say that the legislation that is listed here is not the entire legislative mandate of the Minister. We have just set out some brief highlights. Legislation providing for the establishment of and functioning of the superior courts, magistrates courts, and other courts. And here, Chair, you will find the Superior Courts Act, the Magistrates Courts Act, the recent Traditional Courts Act, and the Land Court Act, and also Small Claims Courts Act. Legislation providing for the appointment of judges, we have the Judges Remuneration Act, the Judicial Service Commission Act, the Act providing for the judicial education of judges, the SAJ Act, and the Magistrates Act, which provides oversight of the magistrates. Legislation providing for the establishment and functioning of bodies responsible for legal aid, law reform and court rules. We have the Rules Board, we have the South African Law Reform Commission, and importantly, we have Legal Aid South Africa. Legislation providing for the administration of estates. Here we have the Insolvency Act, the Administration of Estates Act, and the Trust Property Control Act. Legislation for the administration of legal services to government departments. We have the State Attorney Act of 1957, the State Attorney Amendment Act of 2014, and the State Liability Act. Legislation relating to the prosecution of offenders and the combating of crime. We have the National Prosecuting Authority Amendment Act, of course, falling as part of the NPA Act, the Criminal Procedure Act, the Prevention of Organized Crime Act, Special Investigating Units and Special Tribunals Act, Witness Protection. Chair, you will note that we have highlighted some of the legislation where we start with PRECA, the Prevention of and Combating of Corrupt Activities Act. Our initial presentation incorrectly referenced the Prevention of the Terrorism Act under this section, and it's incorrect because that's actually a legislation of SAPS. So we've corrected that, deleted that, but these are the legislation that falls within the mandate of the minister, including protected disclosures, prevention and combating of trafficking in persons, and Child Justice Act. Legislation relating to the promotion and protection and enforcement of human rights. These four legislation that we've listed are constitutionally mandated pieces of legislation: administrative justice, access to information, equality and prevention of unfair discrimination, and protection of personal information. Legislation relating to extradition in relation to crime occurring beyond the border, that's the Extradition Act 1962. The legislation governing the legal profession, and sheriffs and debt collectors. We have the Legal Practice Act, the Sheriffs Act, the Debt Collectors Act, and the State Attorney Amendment Act. Just a technical glitch, Chair. We're trying to get the press slides to move.
Okay, that's fine.
Chair, may I just interrupt at this stage? My apologies. Whilst we got a moment, just can you give an indication, Swatya, greetings to Minister and everyone, the time to the department? Because we have received all this already, and I just wanted you to give an indication of how much time the department will have. Thank you, Chair.
We have given them, Mr. Swat, until 10:30. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. And I know. Thank you, Chair. And I know the time limitation, and I will move accordingly.
Can I come in, Chair?
Our vision is an accessible
Chair, can I come?
system
Acting DG,
in a
can you
vibrant
pause?
and evolving.
Acting DG, can you hear us? Acting DG, can you pause a little, Honorable Mhlala?
No, thanks so much.
Yes, we can hear you, Chair. We are.
Okay, can you pause
Yes.
a little, Honorable Mhlala?
Yeah, no, thanks so much. Thanks so much, Chair. I think someone muted me, but I was saying that we don't have to rush, I think, the presenters when they are presenting. Let's allow them time, because some of us, as much as we have received this document, it's better with us to grab when these presenters are presenting, rather than just reading by ourselves, because these things are just summary sometimes. They don't even
explains in details. Some of us, it's for the first time we are in this portfolio committee. We were not here in the previous years. Let's allow them to present in details so that we can be able to have more information. Thanks so much, Chair.
That's fine, Honorable Mhlala. Let's give them until 10:30. We'll see how far they've gone at 10:30. Then we'll take it from there. Acting DG, please proceed.
Thank you, Chair. I've done the vision. Our mission is to enable access to justice, promote constitutionalism and the rule of law,
I think
and respect human rights.
Acting DG, I think the mission and the vision and the values you can.
Thanks, Chair. I was about to ask, can they go straight to the issues so that they explain the detail of the presentation, not the legal work and all that?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Chair. We have 5 programs which we will deal with in due course. Next slide. We have 117 outputs. The alignment of the plan with the MTDP, I will take that as having been read because we will reference where those items have been, where we needed to seek alignment. SONA commitments, the MTDP, and the strategic plan of the department. And in this regard, one of our MTDP priorities that we needed to align with, which I think is important for me to mention, is to reduce the number of priority offenses. And this is where organized crime comes in, securing cyberspace, which is the UN Treaty on Cybercrime, and reformed, integrated, and modernized criminal justice system. And in this regard, we talked to some ICT issues. The SONA commitments relate to the SIU NPA legislation, digitization of the master's legislation. Proceed. Next slide. We have 5 programs in the department. Chair, we are familiar with that. It's administration, lower courts, state legal services, prosecuting authority, auxiliary services, and under this, we capture the IJS deliverables together with the transfers of funds that goes to the Public Protector, the Human Rights Commission. Next slide, please. Program 1 under administration is the outcome 1, building a capable, efficient, and effective ethical department in line with the MTDP target. Here, we want to commit to an unqualified audit opinion on the vote account, an unqualified opinion on the President's Fund, and an unqualified audit opinion on the Justice Administered Fund. And further, an unqualified opinion on the Guardian's Fund. Those are the 4 funds that we manage in the department, and all those targets are the same, and to achieve an unqualified audit opinion going forward. Undisputed valid invoices paid within 30 days. Percentage of undisputed invoices, we set the target at 100% as required. While our estimated performance was 100%, we achieved 97% as per the audited statements in the current financial year. Discretionary performance allocated to women at 40%. Percentage of discretionary procurement allocated to exempted micro enterprises and qualifying small enterprises at 40%. Material findings in terms of the percentage of material audit findings on non-financial performance at 60%. Specialized training programs by the Bridget Mabandla Justice College to increase from an estimated performance of 5 to 12, 15, and 18, because the college has now been fully established. The number of officials trained, we want to increase it. We want to set the target at 3,000 for this financial year and increasing in the successive years. Positions occupied by females at the SMS level at 50%. The appointment of persons with disabilities at 2.2%. The employment of youth at 20%. Audit of the DOJCD resource requirements conducted. This is an MTDP target where we are looking at strengthening the criminal justice system broadly. And in doing so, one of the issues to be addressed is conducting of the resource capacity. And to do so, an audit is required. And thereafter, an action plan will be required to be drafted, and it must be implemented thereafter. And how we resource the Department of Justice, together with, in line with the resource requirements of the other JCPS partners. Disciplinary cases finalized within the prescribed time frame. We want to move from 75 to 85 and to maintain that in the outer years. SMS grievances resolved within the prescribed time frame. We want to set a target of 85% resolved within the 45-day period. Non-SMS grievances to be finalized within the prescribed time frame. And Chair, you will note that where we have referred where I've highlighted some matters in yellow, that provides the alignment with the approved APP that was tabled in Parliament. So it doesn't change the content, but just to make it more accurate. We want to increase that we want to set a target of 85% there. Next slide. The departmental structure submitted to the Minister for approval by September 2026. While the structure was approved in the previous administration, there are some matters that need to be addressed in the revised structure. We are currently undergoing a process to have that addressed and to look at the department, because there's been a number of changes in departmental structures, DPSA requirements and cost-cutting measures, etc. And it's time to now stabilize and look at how we resource the department adequately. Sites with upgraded local area network. This talks to our fixing of the infrastructure for ICT. We want to move with 70 sites and maintain that going forward in the outer years. Wide area network upgrades to 506 sites in this financial year, and in the next financial year at 144, which should bring us up to date with those areas of work. Entities annual performance report submitted to the Minister for approval. We're setting the target at 7. This has not been done previously, and the Minister has requested that we have alignment across the entities within the Justice Department so that we are coherently working towards the vision, the mission, and the strategic objectives of the department. We also seek to sign shareholder compact agreements, and equally the target is 7. Public awareness sessions conducted on justice services. We want to increase it from 305 to 420. And this is also aligned to the work that we want to do in this year, the anniversary of the 30 years of the Constitution. Public awareness around Constitution and human rights conducted. And in this regard, we did 115, or estimated performance of 115. We want to increase it to 120 and 125 going forward. Moving on to Program 2, Chair, which is lower court services. Minor capital works. The number of minor capital works will increase to 95 and 184 going forward. This is also, Chair, I must say, linked to budgetary pressures, but we want to significantly increase in the outer years. Child justice preliminary inquiries monitored for finalization. We said we had met 80%. We want to increase that to 90% and 92, in line with our objective of meeting the needs and protecting vulnerable people or persons. Convicted sex offenders registered in the NRSO, we are at a target of 75%, and you will note that we have now increased it to 100%, because no one whose name should be on the register must be left out of the register, because this is a very critical area for protecting vulnerable groups as well. NRSO clearance certificates from a target of 75. We are now we want to increase it to 100%. That's in terms of providing the clearance certificates within 10 days. NRSO clearance certificates from the backlogs. We had achieved clearing the backlog of 50,000. We now set a target of 74,000 in the next financial year. Maintenance matters finalized within 90 days. We had an estimated performance of 85, moving to 90%. Investigations finalized for maintenance matters through the maintenance investigators, and in this regard, again, it was 80% performance, but to move to 100%. So again, in line with vulnerable groups protection. actions for the implementation of prevention and combating of trafficking in persons. This is the number of activities we want to conduct in terms of the policy framework. We want to maintain that at 14% due to some capacity issues within the unit. We want to maintain the performance and improve in the outer years. Implementation of the Criminal Laws Sexual Offences Amendment Act approved by Cabinet. In this regard, we file departmental annual reports, and we now have set a target that we need to table these matters in Cabinet as well, so that Cabinet members are made aware of the challenges and achievements and what needs to be done going forward in terms of sexual offences, and when the report is tabled in Parliament, that everyone is aware of what's being tabled. Next slide. Implementation of the Child Justice Act. Here again, Chair, the report must be tabled in Cabinet for the similar reasons, and this we have been doing successively and in the previous years, but now we've included tabling at Cabinet. Divorce decrees, percentage of divorce decrees issued by the registrars from 90% to 95% and successively increasing. Domestic violence protection orders. In this regard, it is the 24-hour requirement set in legislation, where we achieved a target where our estimated performance is 75%, and I think for obvious reasons we would want that to be at 100% in this financial year and going forward. Sexual offences courts established. Our estimated performance is 16. We want to increase it to 20 and increasing successively. District courts upgraded in line with the minimum standards for domestic violence support services. We achieved estimated 40. We want to increase that to 44 and increasing successively. Criminal cases postponed due to unavailability of court administrative services. This, Chair, relates to the backlogs in courts, and all JCPS partners who have a role in how a court matter would proceed should have a target such as this, so that we ensure that what is within our control is managed properly. And here we have set a target of less than 1%, being the reason for a court having to postpone because we were not ready with our administrative support services. Identified court providing additional justice services. The number of courts providing additional justice services increased from 18 to 19 and 20 going forward. Implementation of the policy framework on small claims courts. The policy framework was approved by the 31st of March, and we're looking at a 30% implementation in 2026, moving on to 60, and then eventually to 100% by 2028. Criminal cases backlog on the court roll. Percentage of cases reduced by 30%, and 50% and 70% going forward. Justice administrative support services requests submitted to the Ministry for approval. And in this regard, we want to achieve 100%, and those relates to the functions that the Minister performs in terms of legislation and the work that is done by our administrative staff as well to prepare those submissions. Transfer of shared services to the OCJ, and in this regard, Chair, we have signed the service level agreements with the OCJ, and all services that could be transferred by the 1st of April have been done so. There are some remaining elements related to some contracts which will overlap until those contracts expire, and they are taken over by the OCJ. We also intend to host an international conference on access to justice by the 31st of March, 2027. Program 3, and this is the biggest program in the department, Chair. There's a number of components here. It's constitutional development, family law services, which includes the masters and family advocates, and legislative development as well. Family advocate litigation matters. We had a target of 65, and we have maintained it at 65. And Chair, you will notice that throughout the family law services targets that we It's only where the officer's estimated performance exceeded the current target that we increased the target, but there were several challenges in that targets were missed by very small percentages, and we needed to stabilize the performance of the office in line with the ICT infrastructure, which proved to be a problem. Family advocate alternative dispute resolutions from 85, we want to maintain 85. We are in the process of filling vacant posts in the family advocate's office, and a number of posts have already been filled, number of interviews being held currently. Court requests responded to in writing within 15 days. We had a target of 70%, which was achieved, and this is one of those areas where we want to increase it to 75%. Moving on to the master's liquidation and distribution accounts within 21 days. We did achieve 80%, but we want to maintain it at 80% pending the stabilization of ICT and increasing it successively in the out years. Letters of executorship in deceased estates, 80%, and maintaining it at 80%, the same as the other target. And the next target, letters of appointment in terms of section 18.3 issued within 7 days. And in this regard, Chair, you'll note that we are setting a target of 100%. This forms the bulk of the master's work. 70% of all estates fall within the threshold of 18.3, which means the value is less than 250,000. And in this regard, there should be no complications in that there may just be one small house or maybe not even a fixed property, but monies in the bank where families are dependent on a quick letter of authority to bury a loved one or to close certain issues. And we feel that within 7 days, there must be 100% performance. The Guardians Fund applications paid within 40 days. The target was, the estimated performance is 50%. We want to increase it to 60%. And in this regard, Chair, we attempted to establish a SAP-based payment system, which was a number of years in development. There was still a number of challenges with that system. The contract since expired. We are looking at getting a new service provider on a SAP, which is SAP qualified, to be able to come in and develop the system. We are also looking at more efficient, effective, and safe payment systems utilized by other state entities, and therefore the target is relatively low. And we also have mechanisms in the department to ensure that there is no fraud and interception of documents in terms of changing of bank accounts, which is the experience we have seen in the past year, which has since been stopped due to the additional checking mechanisms we've put in place. Certificates of appointment in all insolvency matters, we have achieved 90%. We want to increase to 93%. Letters of appointment issued in curatorship at 90% and to maintain that. Comprehensive complaint management framework. And in this regard, Chair, there's just a number of complaints that have been that are received on a daily basis, which are mostly created through backlogs in the offices. Members of the public not getting feedback, but there's also a number, the bulk of the complainants are actually legal practitioners or fiduciary practitioners who are administering estates. And in this regard, we are creating a complaints management framework where we seek to have certain timeframes within which a complaint must be resolved, where we track the complaints and we have a report on its resolution. And in this regard, Chair, we must say that the complaints management framework is not intended to be a permanent feature, because you should not have backlogs and you should not have complaints of the nature we are seeing, but it's of such a nature that it needs to be tracked and it needs to be dealt with in a structured manner. So therefore, we've put this target in place. Interventions from the master's turnaround strategy, we are setting it at 3. And in this regard, Chair, you will note that in the previous financial year, there was a turnaround strategy that was done. Some of those targets have been met. There has been some form of stabilization. However, we feel that we are ready to review that strategic plan to build a more comprehensive turnaround strategy, and we want to finalize that revised strategy by September 2026. Moving on to legislative development, court rules approved that target remains at 18 as in the previous years. Next target, the phases completed for the Criminal Procedure Act. 4 discussion papers were finalized in the previous financial year. However, it has been noted that this target has been with the department for a number of years without making significant progress to finalizing a bill. And we have fine-tuned the outer year and the present year target to ensure that there is a consolidated report which will enable us to finalize the bill, to consult on it and to take it through cabinet and introduce in parliament. Moving on to constitutional development, TRC housing applications. The Minister and the President recently launched the TRC housing applications, and we want to achieve 100% of beneficiaries who have been verified to receive their benefits, and we maintain the target in the outer years. The authority, we want to establish an authority to oversee the implementation of the rehabilitation regulations. In this regard, Chair, we want this finalized within this financial year. However, the regulations that have been prepared may actually prevent us from successfully implementing community rehabilitation. We are currently revising that the proposals that were made, and we will brief Parliament on how we go forward with community rehabilitation. Community advice officers and the number of community advice officers that are supported through the Pledge project. We achieved a target of 10, but we are significantly increasing it to 85 in 2026-27. There are no targets in the outer years because I believe the current round of funding has now concluded. But in the next target, we are looking at developing a funding model for community advice officers to be submitted to the Minister by the 31st of December, so that we can also seek funding, because there are other government departments that also make use of community advice officers, such as social development, and we believe that they have a space where community advice officers can play a huge role in ordinary people accessing services and access to justice. Activities of the National Intervention on SOGIES, we want to achieve a percentage of 100% on the outer years in terms of our interventions that we must implement. The National Action Plan, Chair, you will note that it says a percentage of activities that the National Action Plan implemented, and we had a number previously, and the percentage is actually 100%. The National Action Plan has been in place for some time, and we need to up our performance in terms of implementing that plan. Number of publications on constitutional rights and human rights. We had incorrectly referred to the target as 4. The actual APP provides for a target of 10, and going forward the same in the outer years. Valid request for extradition. Number of publications on constitutionalism and human rights, I've dealt with that. Percentage of valid requests for extradition and mutual legal assistance. We estimate performance at 80%. We want to increase that to 100% because these are critical areas of international cooperation where we seek cooperation from other countries, and likewise countries seek cooperation from us in terms of serious crimes committed in our country and outside. Chair, the next target was a repetition of the first, so we deleted that. It doesn't affect the numbering of our targets though. Moving on to 4.9, number of written contributions responded to in response to requests from international fora for support for the development and strengthening of international law. Set a target of 5 and 6 and 7 going forward. The UN Treaty on Cybercrime, I've spoken to this. We want this ratified by the 31st of March. Compliance with international regional and sub-regional human rights and other relevant treaty obligations. Set a target of 80. Bilateral agreements, we are retaining it at the small number of two because there has been, because these are time consuming, but in all likelihood that once we capacitate the unit fully, we should see this number increasing in the outer years. So that target is a modest target of 2. Activities on the annual project plan. For 30 years of anniversary, we want to complete that program that we have of all the activities at 100%, and percentage of valid requests for service of process matters. And in that regard, we want to achieve a target of 100%. This is where other countries request us to serve documents from other countries to persons in our jurisdiction. Next slide. With regard to bills approved by Cabinet, we had an estimated performance of 3. We want to increase it to 6 in line with what is stated in our legislative program. Regulations published for implementation, also at a number of 6. The draft bill on the transfer of the judiciary, the Minister has spoken to this, and that is in the current financial year to be achieved. Review of RICA legislation, also in this financial year as promised in the legislative program. Research papers by the Law Reform Commission at 10. Criminal records of qualifying candidates. We've been achieving 80% for the previous 2 financial years. We now want to achieve a 90% within 75 days and maintain that in the years thereafter. And this is also subject to having an electronic system implemented successfully. State Attorney turnaround strategy implemented. We set a target of 30%. Cases finalized through alternative dispute resolution from 56 to 57%. Litigation matters, percentage of litigation matters finalized from 2% to 3% to 4%. Percentage of enrolled litigation cases finalized by state attorney without the assistance of private legal practitioners at 50% and 55% to achieve the self-reliance on state attorneys, and instead of briefing counsel for
Acting DG, you are cutting now.
even moving
Acting DG.
Postponements.
ADG.
Saving on finalized claims. The previous target talks to this and supports this, where we want to save, we want to make some savings at 50% to 51 and 52%. Finalized legal opinion. This
Acting
okay,
DG.
Chair, is that better?
Yeah, you are back better now.
Yes. Is it clearer now, Chair?
It's better now. You were cutting, and we've been calling upon you, but we see that you wouldn't hear us.
Yes, Chair. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you, and even the slides are back now in the screen. We lost you. We lost the slides also.
Chair, I can hear you, but can you hear me now?
You are back at cutting now.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, we can hear you now clearly. We are back.
Well,
You are cutting again, acting teacher. And I'm sure.
I apologize, Chair.
As to intervene, Chair, let's get the NDPP to deal with the targets of NPA, and then while we're sorting out the areas that the DG is presenting.
Okay, Chair.
Yeah, I think that's a very proper
Should
intervention.
I go back?
No, you can
AGG,
pause
please
and
wait.
sort your issues.
Wait, can somebody talk to the AGG? Where are the guys in that room? Can they have some backup?
I've now flighted the NDPP.
AGG, please wait.
ADG, please pause there. Fix your network issues. We're going to take the NDPP.
Let's take the NDPP. Thanks, Chair. I'll call them on the side.
Okay. Advocate Mtili.
No, thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair and honorable members of the Portfolio Committee. Let me also acknowledge our Minister, Honorable Kubai, and the Deputy Minister, Honorable Nell, and of course the Acting DG. I see the slides have not been really projected. If you can help, please, with the projection of the Program 4, which is the NPA slides, please.
Committee Secretary, can you help on that?
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Chair. While the Secretary is helping, Honorable Chair, I would like to really once more thank for the opportunity. Honorable Chair, this is my first time in the capacity of the National Director of Public Prosecutions that I addressed the.
And apologies, Advocate Mtili. We welcome you.
Thank you.
And it's true that the last time we had a meeting with you, you were heading SIU.
That's right. Thank you.
It's the first time indeed that you are here as the National Director of Public Prosecutions. And we
That's
welcome you very well. We know we have worked with you. Yes.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And thank you. So, Honorable Chair, really just a quick comment before we go into the actual targets. Oh, there we go. Yeah. So, Honorable Chair, since I joined the NPA, I've had to really ensure that there is strategic alignment in the organization through engaging with the senior management, executive committee, and various staff members, including the directors of public prosecutions in the provinces. So it has really gone very well, and while it's still continuing, the last province that I visited was Limpopo. In this week, on the 30th, I'll be in the Eastern Cape, just to ensure that there's a smooth transition in the Eastern Cape, and also engage the staff there. So, Honorable Chair and honorable members, it's really been quite a fulfilling process to ensure that the senior leadership is on sort of one directional approach. And I'm glad to report that we are all agreed in what needs to be implemented. Honorable Chair, the APP that was presented to the department, and of course to the Portfolio Committee, is informed by the NPA 25-2030 strategy. And that strategy takes into account various factors, which I will really not go into detail on. But Honorable Chair, it really pleases me to say, having observed that from like the 21-22 reporting period, we had about 71%, and that's where we emerged from. In the 24-25 financial year, NPA recorded 86% improvement. In the past financial year, which is 25-26, which is still unaudited at the moment, the projection is sitting at 94%. We would like to continue to really maintain that upward performance trajectory, because that, by doing so, we ensure that, number one, we meet public expectation of the mandate of the NPA in various of its permutations, which will come through. So, Honorable Chair, just in brief, we have agreed on building a professional and ethical organization. We have a very focused program on ethics and accountability, including, Honorable Chair, on taking all of us, particularly senior management, as we start through the lifestyle audits, and that will continue to really engender integrity and accountability in the organization. Addressing gender-based violence and sexual offenses, actively supporting the commissions, and that in itself assist in the fight against corruption and organized crime. Honorable Chair and honorable members, you would have observed that the reports from Madlanga Commission, interim reports that is, as they are sent to the President sends them out as part of the directives. Currently, there's a task team that's led by the SAPS, the National Commission in particular, but we are a concomitant part of that because we are making it clear that we need to provide a prosecutor-guided investigations. So we can see some of the results that the members and the public are seeing out there. It's really the results of the this working together and ensuring that we produce court-ready dockets so that there's no delay. On the IDEC side, Chair, we are really pleased that IDEC, the judge who's overseeing the IDEC, has been appointed, Judge Takalani Joseph Rolinga. Chair, we want to improve on the communication of NPA. So this is still really just some of the highlights before I go into the targets. Proactive communication, Honorable Chair, that is so critical that we reach out to the public with regards to the outcomes of NPA. Honorable Chair, we want to ensure that we assist the country in staying out of the grey list. So the FATA focus area is quite prioritized. Financial and operational independence. Chair, I'm pleased that the Minister indicated that the NPA Act amendment is also on the plan. Honorable Chair, just as I conclude with the preliminary, the capacitation and filling of vacant leadership positions, Minister has alluded to that. We are on top of our the risks that we have to identify, and of course, just ensuring just general focus in the running of the organization. Chair, now colleagues, if you can really just go to the targets, which I will go through quickly in the interest of time. Please reflect the slides, please. Thank you. Go to the next slide. Honorable Chair, as you can see there, that in line with the really strengthening that crimes against sexual offenses and so on, we've got very critical support centers called Tutuzela Care Centers. Those centers are really flagship programs. They've shown support to victims, and they've shown that they're effective in terms of awareness programs as well. So in terms of those, we would like to, in this financial year, increase them to 4. As the Minister indicated, we've really worked hard to up the targets of the NPA so that it really speaks to the perception that we need to fight this increasing scourge of crimes in all their variations. The sexual offences conviction, as you can see there, that it increases with the estimated performance of 25-26. It increases with 75%, 76% in the coming years. Convictions in the high courts, we've seen that they remained really constantly high. We are pleased about that. We would like to keep it at that stage. As you can see there, that there's really quite a high expectation to keep them at the above the 80%, which is specifically 87%. Convictions in the regional courts, we also want to up the game there on various years that are upcoming. As you can see, the estimated is 83%, and we would like to increase 78% in this financial year and 80 and 82 as you know, that Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, regional courts and the district courts, really that's where, amongst others, I mean, the high courts are also very important. But in the regional courts, that's where we see, really some of the big numbers of the crimes being tried, and we would like to return the convictions there. Convictions in the district court, as I said, those are the magistrates' courts and so on. We would like to keep it above the 80s as well, which is 88%. Witnesses and related persons not threatened, harmed, or killed while on the witness protection. I think this really speaks to the effectiveness of the witness protection. We do not want to see any risks attendant to that program. So the zeros are really indicating that we do not want any risk materializing, and we would like to ensure that we keep it that way. Commercial crime conviction, as you can see there, Honorable Chair, would like to keep it in the 90s, because that's really quite a high expectation there. Honorable Chair, on the next slide, it's IDEC investigation authorized. IDEC investigations authorized. These are from time to time, of course, we receive the reports through the IDEC head, the investigative director, and most of the investigations are authorized there, and would like to improve them as the years go by, from 9 this financial year, and 30 going forward. State capture, complex corruption and matters related thereto, enrolled. This is one of the high public expectations, as the Honorable Chair and Honorable Members would know, that some of the public comments has been that they haven't seen an upward trajectory in terms of dealing with the outcomes of the Zondo Commission. Would like to ensure that matters have been enrolled, but there are those matters in the pipeline which will really ensure that we show an improvement. And prosecutions involving money laundering. Here, over and above dealing with money laundering as a scourge and a contributor to organized crime, we would like to ensure that we demonstrate again to the Financial Action Task Force when they come for the evaluation, to ensure that the country stays out of the grey list. We've got a focus team at NPA that deals with these matters. Prosecutions finalized involving money laundering. So the first one is prosecutions instituted. 7.14 is prosecutions finalized. Because when the FATF, Financial Action Task Force, comes for the evaluation, apparently they're going to now even focusing on finalized prosecutions. Except that it does make sense in the sense of fighting crime. We're not just doing it for FATF, but FATF, of course, will also realize that we are actioning these matters. Freezing orders obtained. Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, this is one of the very important part that really seeks to dismantle organized crime. Would like to deal with these matters and up the game in terms of asset forfeiture unit. As you can see there, that there's really quite an upward projection. We are already ensuring that there's an integrated approach, which amongst others will be demonstrated in the Madlanga outcomes and so on. Our acting head of AFU is already on the roll in terms of making sure that her team ensures that the asset forfeiture part plays a role in the organized crime. Recoveries obtained. This is still related to AFU. We would like to increase the recoveries obtained. The projection or the estimated performance for last financial year was 160. We would like to increase as we go along, as you can see those numbers. The conviction in serious organized crime, the conviction there would like to stay it above the 90s, or 90 and above, not below 90, which also demonstrate that we would like to keep our performance high to meet the public expectation in terms of the fight against serious organized crime. We are supporting across the criminal justice cluster supporting the organized crime efforts across the criminal justice cluster with the strategy that has been put in place. We've got a focused NPA strategy and NPA organized crime unit. Convictions for corruption. Honorable Chair, again, this is one of the public outcries that they would like to see increase in the convictions for corruption. As you can see the numbers there, they are really being on the upward trajectory. And I'd like to add on, Honorable Chair, that this would include the referrals from the Special Investigating Unit. When I was still on the NPA side, we've been on the SIU side, we've been working with the NPA to ensure that the referrals on prosecutions for corruption are acted upon. Conviction on murder prosecution, again, another sore point that really is a public sore point in terms of ensuring that we deal with the matters that are besetting our country. We would like to see the convictions there. As you can see, the estimated performance for 25-26, 74%. We would like to keep it that way in the years that are coming. Honorable Chair and honorable members, I really appreciate the opportunity and thank you for this opportunity to present. Thank you very much. We'll be available to take questions. Thanks.
Thank you, NTPP. Can we go back now? I said there's a hand of Honorable Breitenbach.
Thank you, Chair. I have questions, if possible. I'm a long way away, but I do have questions, and I would like to participate for as long as I'm able.
Okay, we're still receiving the presentations now.
Fine, thank you.
Thank you. Can you go back to the acting DG?
Chair, could I ask that the Portfolio Committee flight the presentation? I think it worked better if they flight it.
Committee Secretary, can you help us on that? Thank you. Please proceed, acting DG.
Presentation, yeah, full presentation. We were on program 3. And I was on the slide dealing with the Chief State Law Advisor. So I've done the State Law Advisors. So shall I start here on the TRC housing applications, Chair? Did the committee get those? Was I clear when I was speaking on those slides?
Yes.
Was it
please.
on the court rules? Should I start on this slide, court rules?
Yes. Please.
So I think this is where it started. I just want to confirm.
Yes.
Can I also ask you to be quicker so that the members have enough time to ask questions?
Yes. So moving on,
Also remember, acting DG, we still have the CFO on the financial issues.
Yes, Chair, on the TRC housing applications, I recall speaking to that and the launch that happened a few weeks ago. Can we move on to the next slide, please? The National Action Plan, we have been implementing this for some time, a target of 10 publications, mutual legal assistance and extradition at 100%. I think this is where the presentation started. We started losing connectivity. Valid requests for, this is a slide that has been deleted because it is a repetition. Written contributions responded to from international fora at 5. The next slide, please. The UN Treaty on Cybercrime ratified. compliance with international and regional obligations at 80%, bilateral agreements, a total of 2, and on the annual project plan for the 30-year celebration to complete it in this financial year at 100%, service of process as well at 100%. Next slide, please. Bills approved by Cabinet. I think I've also spoken to this, and regulations increases from a performance of 3 to 6, a draft bill on the transfer of the judiciary, RICA legislation to be tabled this year, South African Law Reform Commission reports at 10, and qualifying candidates for expungements to increase from 80 to 90%. Next slide, please. State Attorney turnaround strategy. Litigation cases finalizes through alternative dispute resolution to increase to 57%. Litigation cases finalized at 2%, increasing to 3 and 4% per annum. Enrolled litigation cases finalizes where State Attorney does not require the assistance of private legal practitioners at 50%. Savings on finalized claims at 50%. Next slide. Finalized legal opinions. This is the Chief State Law Advisor targets, which was at 80%, and all of them have increased. Finalized legal opinion increased to 90% within 45 working days. Suggested bills and subordinate legislation scrutinized and finalized to 100%, noting that these are bills that must be introduced in Parliament, therefore the full compliance is required. International agreements from 80 to 90%. The next slide. Briefs allocated to Black practitioners at 70%. Percentage of Black-owned law firms appointed at 70%. Percentage of briefs allocated to female legal practitioners at 40%. Percentage of Black female owned law firms appointed at 40%. Percentage of value of the value of briefs allocated at 70%. Percentage value of briefs allocated to Black female practitioners at 40%. The next slide. Whistleblower protection. We have already spoken about the publication of this bill. The next stage is for the bill to be submitted to Cabinet for we have submitted it to Cabinet. The next stage is to introduce the bill in Parliament in this financial year. Implementation plan on the anti-corruption architecture. The report submitted, the report is reviewed, the NACAC report is reviewed, and an implementation plan emanating from the report to be finalized within the financial year. Finalized and costed. Next slide, please. And the number of bills seeking to repeal apartheid era legislation from 4 to 5 bills submitted to Cabinet for approval. The next slide. Program 4 has been done, so please move to Program 5. The IGS system. The number of cases electronically processed through the IGS Transversal Hub to 350,000. The number of SAPS police stations with integrated person management systems deployed from 40 to 220. The number of government departments or entities connected to the transversal platform. I think there is the remaining 3, and it's 2 and 1 to complete this process. The next slide, please. Chair, the risk summary, I'm not sure whether we should take it as being read, but I'll just gloss over it very quickly. We are talking about misalignment of the structure, fraud and corruption, and in that regard, we're talking about conducting lifestyle audits, suboptimal security. We are improving our security in the courts in terms of physical security, cybersecurity exposure, and this is in respect of our systems that require protection, and we already spoke to the LAN and the WAN upgrades. The next slide, please. We have ineffective stakeholder management, and we have spoken about collaboration and cooperation within the criminal justice system, but also the utilization of digitized and integrated systems. Efficient and resilient justice system for improved accessibility. We want to review and implement business continuity plans due to infrastructure being the number of infrastructure contravention notices that we have received, ICT challenges, etc. Exposure vulnerable to convicted sex offenders. The risk of litigation. Sorry, if you back to that slide, it's point 7, the issuing of NRSO slides. Inefficient and ineffective services by the masters, and the implementation of service delivery standards is the mitigation strategy. Next slide. Delays in finalizing legislation. We are talking about litigation. And then slow progress in the transformation of female and legal counsel. We're talking about pairing of junior counsel with senior counsel. We want to conduct research on legislation and recommend repeal and replacement due to the outdated legislation that is being challenged. Submission of bills seeking to repeal and replace colonial and apartheid era legislation as well. Limited knowledge about justice services by vulnerable, and in this regard, we have spoken to the number of outreach activities in the APP that we intend to embark upon in this financial year. The next slide. We're on to the slides on the budget and performance, and in this regard, I'll call the CFO chair with your permission to finish the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Acting DG. CFO.
Thanks. Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Minister, Deputy Minister, and honorable members. Here we try to show how the performance targets that we have just walked through are funded. We start with the MTF allocation summary over the 3-year term. You will see, Chair and members, that the indicative baseline for 3 years is just over 83 billion rand in total. For 26-27 financial year, the year that we are starting, we start approximately with 26.5 billion rand. There were some adjustments from the previous baseline, which is the additional funding for early retirement of around 115 million rand that was added. And there were reductions that were mainly 2 items, which are 280 million rand is a function shift that has been explained by the Minister earlier on, where shared service transferred to the Office of the Chief Justice as part of the single judiciary, and 52 million rand in an inflationary adjustment. The inflation target was initially estimated at 6%, and it was then revised downwards to 3%. So after this adjustment, Chair, our revised baseline is just over 26.3 billion rand. The next slide, Chair, is the bigger picture of the budget overall. That overall, the baseline for 2026-2027 is just over 26.3 billion rand, growing to approximately 27.3 billion rand in 27-28, and just over 28 billion rand in 28-29. That is an annual average growth of 3.4%. It is modest, but consistent is not enough, but we have to do with what we have, considering the fiscal constraint. If you look at the programs overall, our highest program is the lower court at approximately 7.8 billion rand. This includes the courts, the magistrate, and access to justice on the ground. The National Prosecuting Authority, it's at approximately 6.3 billion rand, which covers the prosecution, the anti-corruption and the asset forfeiture unit. Auxiliary and associated services is approximately 4.3 billion rand. This covers ICT, IJS, legal aid, and Chapter 9 entities. Legal aid get the highest share, plus the direct charge of approximately 2.75 billion rand against the National Revenue Fund. That's the magistrate salaries. So if we look at the main cost drivers of this budget, Chair, is the compensation of employees that dominates at 16.4 billion rand, roughly 62% of every rand that we spend. Goods and services is approximately 5.4 billion rand, and transfer to entities approximately 3.8 billion rand. Capital assets, which includes building, infrastructure, ICT, it's 630 million rand. Then this leaves us with a discretionary budget. So once we strip out the direct charges, entities transfer, the funds that are earmarked like IJS, the department discretionary budget, the money that controls basically what we use for implementation of the APP, is just under 13.7 billion rand. The APP has been deliberately aligned to these figures. It reflects 16,164 funded posts, 58 funded procurement projects, and 95 APP performance indicators if we include NPA. Branches have been, the department as a whole and the branches have been directed to reprioritize within their allocation to ensure that we work within the budget, as no additional funds have been sought. We did request additional funding, but because of competing priorities, we couldn't get extra funding. We'll continue to engage National Treasury on our needs going forward. So if we go to the next slide, it's just showing again what I've explained in the executive summary is the pie chart, which show the proportional share of each program. Lower court services taking the largest slice, which makes sense given its direct service delivery function. The NPA is the second largest, reflecting prioritization of prosecution and anti-corruption work. Members should note that administration is considered as overhead, and you would see that the share for administration is very low, and though it is in line with the financial discipline. The next slides continues to break down the allocation per program. Administration, it's approximately 3.5 billion, growing at 2%, and the slowest growth, which is appropriate for an overhead function. And then you look at lower courts, approximately 7.8 billion at 4% growth, the biggest program, and state legal services, approximately 2 billion rand at 3%, NPA 6.3 billion at 4%, to cover the prosecution anti-corruption work, auxiliary services around 4 billion, and that's covering IJS. So the overall program total growth from just under 23.6 billion rand to over 25 billion rand over 3 years. Add the direct cost for magistrate salary, you get what the total budget allocation is. The next slide shows the budget per allocation, per economic classification. Again, is the detail of what I've already explained on the summary. It shows current payments for approximately 21 billion for day-to-day running of the department. Compensation of employees approximately 16.4 billion, growing at 4%, and goods and services approximately 5.4 billion rand, growing at 3%. Transfer and subsidies, again, it's what goes to the entities. Capital asset include the forecast that the minister spoke about around stabilizing the ICT infrastructure, and we've allocated funding for the land and WAN upgrade. The court infrastructure, the minor capital works is your day-to-day fixing of daily maintenance on the facilities that we have along the province. So each province has been allocated funding to be able to deal with those that are outside public works. there's also allocation of capital works that is done by public works. So the 4% growth in compensation is in line with the salary agreements, and the 3% growth in goods and services reflects mostly the tighter CPI environment, and capital asset is where we focus on maintenance and ICT infrastructure than really new builds. So the last slide, Chair, is just to show you the main cost drivers, which is the personnel cost as the dominant cost drivers, and this is common for a service delivery department like ours, and which is people intensive in nature. And the key message that we would want to share is that although funding may not be enough, we are managing within our means. Compensation growth is controlled, and capital spending is targeted on modernization priorities and infrastructure stability in the ICT environment to cover in the 26-27. We have requested National Treasury through, it will still come to Parliament, obviously, that we will have to get additional funding through the adjustment estimate. For the funds that has been allocated for Madlanga Commission, we had budget of 147 million, and the preliminary expenditure currently is around 123 million, and even with the accruals of 18 million that may come of invoices that were not received by year end, we still believe that we should be within the budget baseline. But the rest for the next 6 months, we have requested more funding, and that might be higher than what we initially requested because of the time frames that are tight, and they have to work more hours to try and meet the deadline. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you so much, CF. Members, I think let's interact with the report, and we're going to allow the DM and the minister and the entire team of colleagues to reply on our comments and questions. And apologies for passing over the time that we have set. We had some technical glitches. I see there's a hand of Honorable Klopper. Honorable Bredenbach, are you still there?
I am, Chair, thank you. Is it my turn?
Yeah, I think let's start with you.
Thank you, I'm very grateful. I'm scared I'll lose signal. I'm in Istanbul and the signal is not great.
Yeah, but we can
So
hear you.
my questions are to Mr. Motibi, and congratulations to him on his appointment. Great things are expected. I hope he's learned how to not sleep. On pages or slides 43, 44, 45, around there, he was referring to percentages of cases for 25, 26, 26, 27, 27, 28, etc. And those are estimates. I'd like to know how those estimates are arrived at. For instance, but I want all of them, but for instance, murder, 74% of, what is that 74%? 74% of murders committed, 74% of murders reported, 74% of murder cases enrolled. I don't know what it means. The 74% is just up in the air, completely meaningless. Unless we know what we're dealing with, 74% means nothing. It just looks nice on paper. So for all of those estimates, and there were a number of them, I'm only using the murder as an example. I would like an explanation of how they're arrived at, and why are they so low? 74% of murder, whatever metric you're using, is not enough. Murder is not hard to prove. You need to get 100% convictions for murder. It doesn't depend on anything except facts. So I'd like to know how those are arrived at. That's all that I had time to catch, Chair, because the connectivity is not great. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Bredenbach. Honorable Swart.
I think there were colleagues before me, Mr. Klopper, and that, so I don't mind waiting my turn in the queue. It's up to you.
Proceed, Honorable Swart.
Chair, I've got a large number of questions, so you might want to say for a second round, but it's going to take quite a lot of time for me to go through this. Chair, may I firstly also congratulate Advocate Matiba on his appointment. And just to start with the department, because normally we would have the two, we'd have the department and the NPA separately, and we'd engage separately. I just trust that you'll allow us additional time now. Chair, just as far as the department is concerned, I want to thank the Minister for the input, and I want to thank the department for its work under difficult conditions. I just wanted to comment as far as the budget is concerned, and that is, I'd like the CFO or the Minister just to indicate the challenges with the budget, given the fact that the inflation target has dropped and that now has a budget implication. Secondly, the funding of the Madlanda Commission and the other commissions. My understanding in the past was that the presidency would reimburse the department for that. And I notice now that the department is saying that they will approach the Minister of Finances. That obviously, can I just have clarity on that regard? Because the president sets up the commission. Surely there should be an undertaking from the side of the presidency that they would cover that. Chair, as far as the finances is concerned as well, we're concerned about the report by the Auditor General relating to the overdraft of 4 billion rand, which largely covers the overdraft when it comes to client departments, the department doing work, the state attorney doing work for client departments, and that has been labeled as a risk. Could I ask the acting DG to give an indication of progress made with collecting funds from client departments? Chairperson, there was an indication in the one of the targets relating to litigation, which I didn't quite understand. Was that litigation on behalf of the state attorney on behalf of client departments, or was it litigation in the department itself, where there's an indicator of 2%, 3%, and 4%? And that seems very low. I'd like clarity on that aspect. Chair, then as far as the appointment of the positions that still require, we welcome the fact that the presidency is looking into the appointment of the DG and the update on the other appointments. There are, however, when one looks at some of the targets, getting back to the targets, whether they are realistic, and I think we do welcome the increased targets. The concern is, are they realistic given, for example, let me give you a specific example, the reduction of the backlogs in your paragraph 3.18, and that is on the targets. That backlogs are going to be reduced by 30%, 50%, and 70%. That seems, is that realistic? We do commend setting high targets. I think that is excellent. We wouldn't like it to be set lower. But given the high levels of criminal backlogs, is that achievable? Chairperson, can I also then, I might need to come back at a second round, but I would like to put a few questions also to, generally speaking, one of the big concerns is the professionals that are being assassinated. And we've got a large number of professionals over the last 3 years, including regional court prosecutors, including lawyers, including insolvency practitioners, including financial officers. What can the department do to protect? These aren't even whistleblowers. These are people that are engaged in litigation. These are engaged on behalf. You've got prosecutors that are being assassinated. Surely far more needs to be done to protect these prosecutors, these law enforcement agencies, even financial officers. We see the most recent one of Ms. Rant Sufa Umfaleni, manager accounting, acting accountant. Chairperson, can I then also just ask the Advocate Matiba, I want to commend you on your appointment. I wanted to ask you, given your experiences in the SIU, where you used to express frustrations, maybe not frustrations, but just the concerns about the delays of matters referred from the SIU to the NPA for follow-up. And let me give you an example, the Tembisa corruption matters, where it was referred and there were concerns about the delays. What are you able to do from your perspective when it comes to cooperation with the SIU? And I think at one stage there was even a memorandum of understanding. And I do appreciate the fact that you now, in the position of NDPP, would have a better understanding of the frustrations in that regard. Chair, I want to also raise a matter of alleged political interference. And I think that is a concern that Advocate Matiba would be addressing. And I understand there is an inquiry into that effect. Could Advocate Matiba give us clarity where he has broadened it? There have been allegations of political interference with prosecutions. And I want to raise a specific matter relating to Mr. Michael Swain. And please, I raise this just for clarity. He is an executive director of Freedom of Religion, a well-known advocate for religious freedom, and certain criminal charges were laid against him by the CRL commissioner. And this arises from a matter of great national importance, and that is the attempt of regulation of religions. There's been protests across the nation, there have been marches, but these charges were laid, and I understand that Mr. Swain has cooperated with the police and the MPA. But what is more of concern is in affidavits, there is an allegation of an attempted political interference. These are in affidavits before the High Court. And I'd ask whether Advocate Matiba would be able to look into this. It is alleged that the CRL chair contacted Advocate Batohi, tried to use political interference to push for the prosecution, saying he must be arrested before Christmas last year. Now, again, I'm purely asking whether Advocate Matiba would be able to look into this matter to ascertain whether such intervention occurred, on what basis, and then when a final decision could be made on these criminal charges, given the ongoing prejudice to Mr. Swain's constitutional rights and reputation. This matter is being dealt with by the Cape, I think Advocate Bell, but I do purely want to avoid asking a formal question in Parliament. And again, it should be seen as no political interference from my side. I purely want to know detail about when a decision is to be taken in this matter. Chair, I've got a number of other questions, but maybe I should stop at this stage to allow other colleagues, and then maybe there could be a second round. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honorable Swart. Honorable Klopa.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I want to just first of all start off by saying thank you for the presentation from the Acting DG Pillay, Advocate Matiba as well, for the congratulations and the CFO. Chair, before I get into specific questions, I think it's important to step back and look at the overall picture presented in this APP. And what stands out, and I don't know if it's the correct word, is a possible mismatch between the ambition and the capacity, with capacity really being highlighted as a risk towards the end of the presentation. Because on the one hand, you're seeing expanded commitments, many specialized courts, digitization, anti-corruption reforms, as well as just broader system changes. And while they're all welcomed, on the other hand, the department is operating under this constrained budget. There's no real growth and there's significant financial pressure, including the reported overdraft of approximately 4 billion, as mentioned by Honorable Swart, who just spoke. So the question becomes, Chairperson, how are these commitments realistically going to be funded going forward? And are we really confident that what is being planned here is actually deliverable within the current fiscal environment? Chairperson, added to that, in November last year, the Minister described the department's ICT environment as a crime scene. And this is quite a serious characterization. What has been done since then to stabilize the environment? What were the findings? What are the corrective actions that have been taken? Because many of the challenges that we're dealing with, such as the backlogs, delays, inefficiencies, all point back to that system functionality and governance. And Chairperson, there are also concerns around procurement processes in the ICT space. If there have been instances where proper public procurement procedures were not followed, what consequence management has taken place, what has been implemented, and has there been accountability? Chairperson, I'll just go to a few specific questions. Why is the percentage of the material audit findings only set at 60%? And why is it not fully covered or at least higher? This was the 2026-27 APP DOG CD plans to address only 60% of material audit findings on non-financial performance. Chairperson, this next thing I would like to find out, there was a minimum services at district courts for domestic violence. The indicator was set at 244. If I'm correct, there's 384 district courts in South Africa in total, give or take. Are we saying that these courts that are not part of these 44 do not even meet the minimum requirement for the domestic violence capabilities to address those? Then, Chairperson, the Master's Office letters of executorship issued within 15 days is set at 80%. And I just want to find out, is this what we're currently reaching? Because we get large volumes of correspondence for Master's Office. You know this yourself. And I would just like to find out about that. And on the same vein, on the Guardian funds being set at 60% within 40 days. And why is this also set so low? Considering that, the Guardian funds is for the most vulnerable. Chairperson, then there was a indicator set for educational programs. And I would just like to know, do these educational programs also conduct surveys into, I would say, citizen satisfaction and engage that satisfaction with the citizens who had to utilize these services? I mean, it could be masters, women's, children seeking assistance, restraining orders, the whole 10 yards, because I think this is also quite important to understand, how all these that we're busy with is actually being translated on the ground. Chairperson, then there was an indicator of reducing backlogs by 30%. And I would just like to find out the total number of backlogs that is being referred to. Because 30%, again, I think it also almost captures what Honorable Breitenbach was speaking about, 30% of what? So if we had that clear number, we would have a starting or a baseline to actually work off and know, towards what we're working. And then there's a key issue, I think that's secondary to that, is how exactly will the reduction be achieved in practice, and what interventions are being put into place? And then the real concern for me, Chairperson, is are we reducing the backlog in a meaningful way, or are we simply cycling older cases out while new cases then accumulate? So yes, we would be using the backlog and the people that have been waiting the longest, reducing that backlog. But would we be having a trade-off with new cases having to wait and ultimately creating a whole new backlog? So in other words, Chair, does this just reduce actual pressure of the system, or does it just shift it? Chairperson, another concern that I have is the expansion of the, of specialized courts. And these are, sexual offenses, commercial courts and others. And they're definitely necessary and definitely supported. But the real issue again is the capacity. And I come back to the risk factors that were highlighted. How does the department plan to staff all these courts? And we're not just speaking of, whether it be judges, magistrates, prosecutors, but also interpreters, clerks, administrative support, support staff, all the things that go along with it. Because in the reality, Chairperson, the courts that we have already, it almost feels like they're collapsing under pressure. Many of them don't even have the basics, security services or implementations, technical implementations in place, recording devices, interpreters that might be lacking. So when we do these expansions, is this also included in the staffing components? Do we take other entities such as legal aid and so into consideration, because they are also under immense constraints? How do they fit into the plan? Chairperson, I'm also just skipping some. I wouldn't want to keep you too long. Chairperson, the department is set 100% for both the registration of convicted sex registers as well as the issuing of the clearance certificates. And I just want to find out if the department can provide any current backlog of the clearance certificates and whether it has been fully cleared or is it ongoing. And also, assurance that, these 100% and within 10 days of the clearance and convicted offenders, is that also going to be realistic to achieve? Because that hasn't always been the case. So, what has changed? What has been put in place to actually make that actually going to happen? Chairperson, I will just ask one more question because I don't want to waste time. When will the lifestyle audits begin for the supply chain management, ICT, security management functions commence? And there hasn't been an indicator included in this. So how will it be measured? Chairperson, I'll just pause there.
Thank you, Honorable Klopper. Honorable Mutaung.
Thanks, Chair, for the opportunity. I want to start by congratulating Advocate Mtibi on your appointment. Chairperson, let me welcome the presentation and applaud the department with the good work that they are continuing to do despite the challenges. I just want to mention also, Chair, that we see the performance of the department in this financial year. I can see that they have increased many of their indicators except one that is still on the same indicator. I have few questions to the department, Chairperson. Chair, on outcomes and output indicators that are contained in this report, I just want to check. I request the DG to be specific on numbers on how many outcomes and outputs indicators are contained in 2026-2027 APP. And then secondly, what is the specific target for reducing criminal case backlog on the court roll? Third, Chair, what is the target conviction rate for sexual offenders? Number four, Chair, I just want to know what is it that the department is planning to reduce litigations? On budget, Chair, DG, which of the 5 departmental programs received the largest budget allocation? And under the risk summary, it is mentioned that a risk regarding the National Register for Sex Offenders. There is a risk under that register. What is the specific risk, and is there any strategy for mitigation on that? Lastly, Chair, is there any plan to deal with the slow progress in transformation of female and young legal counselors, as it is mentioned as a risk? Or is there any mitigation strategies that the department is having? Last, Chair, I just want to request the CFO to explain the financial significance of the function shift to the Office of the Chief Justice mentioned for 2026 and 2027 budget. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Honorable Mutaung. We're going to take the NDPP to deal with issues relating to NPA. And also NDPP, please, in your reflection, also reflect there are a lot of issues that have been said in Parliament about IDEC. And that also includes allegations that were submitted under oath that there are people with criminal records that have been appointed to investigate at IDEC. So please, when you come, also cover that. Then after the NTPP will take the acting DG and will take the CFO to deal with financial related matters. Then we'll take the deputy minister. The minister will come and close the response session. NTPP.
Chairperson,
Yes,
through you, there are specific issues that relates to certain department branches. With your indulgence, if we could allow those DDGs to respond to them.
Yes, we can. We'll allow them. We'll allow them. Thank you. NTPP.
No, thank you. Thank you, Honorable Chair. I'll start off with the question by Honorable Breitenbach. I think the question would really be relevant to other targets where the rate of conviction is indicated. I think the question, amongst others, is what does the rate signify, or the percentage? The percentage, it's the percentage of cases enrolled and specifically taken to trial. So I think that's important to note. Cases enrolled and taken through to trial. And I'd like to also just indicate here that in many instances, and as I say, we really listen to what the public says on an ongoing basis. Some of the questions we considered as we were reviewing these targets is that cases that are reported at police stations, more often those numbers do not always sort of align with matters that we've enrolled, because some of the cases would still be, under investigation and so on. So the number of matters reported would not always align with cases enrolled for that particular reason. But I need to also just indicate that as I engaged with my colleagues, we also looked at the historical numbers. And I was trying to get from my colleagues the historical percentage numbers. So when time permitting, we are, or we could actually present that in writing to the portfolio committee in terms of what is it that informed us to reach these various percentages, including the percentage of the murder convictions that sits at 74%. I've casually looked at some of the information that was given in terms of the previous numbers, which we will really set out in writing to the department and of course to the portfolio committee, just so that we show a trajectory on what informs the percentage itself as a percentage number, but otherwise the percentage is a percentage of cases enrolled and cases taken to trial. And those definitions will be found in the indicator definitions, which are contained in detail in the APP that has been submitted. Right. So in terms of the 100% conviction, look, while we would probably want a higher percentage, the 100% being the ideal, so to speak. So we take into account various factors, and of course, as the Honorable Breitenbach would probably know in her experience as a prosecutor. Chair, if I were to just put on record, when the regional courts some years back, first got the jurisdiction to prosecute murder. I had the privilege to prosecute some of the first murder cases which were taken from the High Court to the Regional Court in Johannesburg. Honorable Breitenbach happened to be on the senior prosecuting teams there in Johannesburg. And we would know the various factors that are taken into account in bringing out a conviction, and not necessarily around murder. Of course, it's important to know that would depend on the evidence presented, well investigated in evidence, and some of the specialized evidence that is presented, and of course, ultimately is the adjudication by the bench. We do agree that really this signifies a very important indicator in terms of ensuring that we contribute to the fight against the scourge of crime, murder, organized crime, and so on. So, Honorable Chair and honorable members, we in no way would accept that we accept a dip in terms of NPA performance. There's no way that we will do that. And the 74% really on the murders particularly really shows a significant maintenance of performance, having taken into account the factors that we have taken into account. If we do go back and really just re-engage, of course, I will re-engage with the strategy team and, of course, the National Prosecuting Services team and the DPPs again, really just to rehash and revisit, just to make sure that we are really doubly sure that the 74% is the percent that we seek to put forward to the portfolio committee, to the executive authority, which is the minister, and then to the public, of course. So we will do so and indicate whether there's an opportunity for any variation. Honorable Chair, I would like to just indicate with regard to, and thanks, Honorable Swart, that's why when I presented, I specifically mentioned that the conviction for corruption, those increases will also take into account the SIU referrals. On an ongoing occasion, the platforms that I occupy to speak to the public, the analysts and journalists always ask that question, that you now have the opportunity as an NPA, having been at SIU, to ensure that those cases receive even more attention. I need to just indicate those cases have been receiving attention by the NPA when I really engaged, and that was the function of the MOU, Honorable Swart, that we have mentioned. Of course, we would like to ensure that now they receive even further attention. Let's see improvement and so on. I've spoken to the acting head of SIU, in particular, again, listening to what the public concerns are. The Tembisa investigations also come up as part of the expectation of the public. So we are really strengthening this collaboration with the SIU to ensure that the teams continue to engage on matters that has been referred and to track where they are, where there's requirements in terms of further evidence that's required. We have brought in the third signatory to the MOU some time back, which is the Hawks. So they play a very critical role there. So I will, together with the acting head of SIU, we will monitor the space and ensure that those referrals receive appropriate attention. Honorable Sart, with regard to the alleged political interference, I don't want to really mislead the committee in any way. I'm not aware of those prosecutions. I'll check with my colleagues. I'll check with the where we receive complaints, where we receive records of allegations. There's a very comprehensive record keeping in terms of allegations received. I will check that. But if it's at all possible, we really appreciate that Honorable Swart could probably just indicate to us what the case number is, if in any, but we will do the work on our side just to check that and do a follow through and report that in writing to the committee. Honorable Chair, with regard to IDEC, and that's why I specifically mentioned that the IDEC judge has now been appointed since March. We are really pleased about that, because when I engaged with our Office of Ethics and Accountability, they indicated, and I looked at the regulations, that their space is limited only to NPA. So now the appointment of a judge will really assist us in terms of looking into ethics and accountability issues at IDEC. Where there's specific allegations that there's people with criminal records, appointed, I'll have to check that, Honorable Chair, and revert to the Honorable Committee. I will re-engage with the Investigative Directorate and give this report back to the Honorable Committee in writing. Honorable Chair, I think those were the matters that were raised against in respect of NPA. I will be available to address any others if I may have skipped any. Thank you.
We have not addressed the issue of IDEC and
yes, that's the IDEC part I was on at the last comment. As I said, the Honorable Chair, you said there's allegations that there are people with criminal records who are investigating at IDEC. So, by the way, part of the integrity checks across NPA, which includes lifestyle audits, that will cover IDEC as well. But these ones and the integrity checks would include the vetting, which would include checking the criminal records. If there are people who have been appointed with criminal records, that process should pick them up. But again, an added step, even before that integrity check is completed, we will deliberately go and check whether those allegations were received and what has happened to those allegations. If they pointed to specific persons, it should be easier to look into them, Honorable Chair. I will do so and revert to the Honorable Committee.
Thank you, NTPP. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Acting DG. Acting DG.
Thank you, Chair. I would like the DDGs to come forward.
When you respond, Acting DG, please
Sorry?
also remember that there is an email that was shared with all of us from a person called Nukukanya Kanyile. Please also address that as you respond to the questions.
Yes, Chair.
I'll be the one who deals with it.
Okay, you'll that's fine then. That's fine. Proceed, Acting DG.
Thank you, Chair. There are some questions that I think the DDGs will answer themselves, and I'm going to refer to them in the following order. DDG Zwane will answer the questions on ICT, DDG Moalaba on the issue of backlogs, then Mr. Mbeki on the litigation issues, DDG Rulani on the lifestyle audits, and then the CFO, and anything remaining I will deal with before the Minister comes in. In that order, please, colleagues.
This one.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Just on the questions about what have we done in the department regarding our infrastructure stability. We have started already with upgrading and migrating about 650 sites from what used to be called copper network onto fiber. So there has been some progress on that, and also increasing and upgrading our bandwidth of about 46 of our sites into at least better bandwidth levels. We've also procured about 1,000 laptops and desktops to improve on accessibility for our members. So we are busy gradually stabilizing the environment by using the constrained budget to at least improve our stability. Thank you.
Okay, DDG Mwalaba.
Court administration.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Chair, the number of questions that we asked, and I'll start with the ones for the upgrade of the courts in relation to the minimum standards. Yes, Chairperson, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible. You'll recall that we've been having a discussion around the budget of the minor capital works. If you can take us through if it's still the amount is still relevant for the minor capital works, or there should be a reconsideration to that. You can proceed, DDG.
No, thank you very much, Chairperson. Chair, the amount of the minor capital works, as reflected by the CFO, we do believe that more could be done to increase the amount because the current conditions of the infrastructure in the various courts across the country does require additional support in terms of upgrades. And the numbers, while they are available and shown by the finance CFO, it does indicate that more can still be done, particularly to deal with the needs of the current infrastructure in the courts. Of course, it does impact on service delivery, but we try by all means, Chair and members, to deal with what we have currently indicated. But in terms of the need, there is a great need to improve the current level of infrastructure to improve services. We can indicate, Chair, that indeed the annual report will reflect that we have done about 40 courts in the last financial year for the minimum standards for the domestic violence. And in the current financial year, the intention is actually to increase that and do an additional 44. This, Chair, has been brought by the need for us to prioritize victims of domestic violence, to create a secure and private space for victims to actually report these matters, consult with the court officials to ensure that the court orders, when they're issued on the basis of privacy, and also to provide some dignity to the members of the public who may want to secure domestic violence protection orders. Indeed, the numbers may not be that high, but in some other courts, we do struggle with issues of space. There are courts that are quite small, servicing a large number of the population, which then led us to have this number, which was 40 last year and 44. But progressively, we are increasing the numbers where persons who may want to obtain the services within the courts are really assisted to ensuring that the level of dignity and privacy is secured. The issues around the expansion of the services, we see this as a positive sign, particularly looking at the number of the areas, particularly villages that are being serviced. We did have it as a first indicator in the last financial year. In the current financial year, we see the extension of the justice services as indeed a progressive move to ensuring that the areas that we have not been receiving justice services, whether it's criminal law or family law services, are able to receive the services that they deserve. And it does serve a large number of the population in the area. And of course, the issues around the specialized courts, indeed, we are looking at adding more capacity in these courts going forward. Capacity is a challenge, and the minister has implored the DG and her team to ensure that the structure is looked at and finalized, which will in the main look at what kind of capacity is required for this expanded court services to members of the public. Chair, we must indicate that and wish to thank the Minister for assisting us with additional capacity within the area of the National Register of Sexual Offenders. It is quite correct in terms of the observation that we've not been able to meet our targets over the years, particularly in ensuring that those that are convicted of sexual offences are listed in the register within a period of 10 days. We're hoping that in the current financial year, with the capacity that has been made available, and with additional capacity that we shall be requesting to the Minister and the DDG responsible for corporate services, who are able to look at to what extent can we add additional capacity to respond to the indicator to ensure that we're able to meet it. There are concerns in the provinces of KwaZulu-Natal where we've seen high number of applications and convictions. There are concerns in the Free State where we've seen a large number of applications, as well as Gauteng. And I think interventions are in place and ongoing to deal with the nature of the applications, as well as to ensure that those that are convicted are listed in the register. There is quite a number of issues that relates to the backlogs. And we need to indicate, Chair, that this is not an area that the department can deal with it alone. It requires concerted and increased efforts from all the stakeholders, particularly in the value chain, whether it's the police, justice, the NPA, correctional services, as well as the attorneys who are representing those that are charged, particularly with serious offenses. And we've now brought in the Law Society to engage their members in this regard. We intend to increase our efforts in terms of really identifying those matters that have been identified as court backlogs across the country, and to seek to reduce the backlog matters by ensuring that we are able to identify those matters, engage with the NPA, engage with the police, if it's the police that have been seen or found to be contributing to the case backlog. And of course, there could be other reasons which could be a contributory factor that in the main would be the kind of results and the timing of the results that may come from the lab, the testing lab, and I think the chair and members will be aware that there are challenges in this regard, particularly focusing on sexual offences, which is a main contributor to the areas of the backlogs. As it stands, Chair, at the present moment, we do have we have identified that there is about 31% nationally of the case backlogs that we have across the country, which represent about 27,000 cases that are on the court roll. The intention is to go deeper into those cases within the value chain, identify them, make sure that they move, and where intervention is required, that we do have the necessary intervention. So the 30% that has been targeted for the current financial year speaks to these numbers, and they have been segregated between the regional courts as well as the district court. But what we're finding to be, and we're welcoming, is that the Office of the Chief Justice is currently reviewing the norms and standards, which will seek to have a total review of the periods of the matters which are considered to be backlogs. Currently in the district courts, it's about 6 months. In the regional court, it's about 9 months. So where a matter exceeds this period, it is then considered to be backlogs. But we do welcome and we're looking forward to engaging with the Chief Justice in the review of the current norms and standards. Chair, we can, through Secretariat, send through the detailed information on the current numbers that we have on the backlogs, which will indicate also the district where we're experiencing challenges with the backlogs. And of course, this has also been made to be a target in the MTDP. And of course, the cluster is making follow-ups on it to ensure that the numbers that we're seeing currently are reduced. I think.
Thank you. Acting DG, who is the following DDG?
Chair, it will be Mr. Mbeki online. We will deal with those questions regarding the target of 2% litigation. Mr. Mbeki?
Thank you very much, Acting DG. Good morning, honorable members. My name is Felix Mbeki. I'm the Acting Solicitor General. I will start.
As long as you're not Tabo, you're Felix. We're fine.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. I will start with the issue of 2%. The first question was whether this relates to litigation against the state. Yes, it relates to litigation against the state, the litigation that is handled by the various offices of the state attorneys. The 2% is the percentage of finalized cases compared to, I mean, in respect of all cases that are handled by the state attorneys. Currently, we have about 30-something cases, and there is a dependency on this issue. One of the dependencies is a effective case flow management, and the cases are postponed most of the time. So we cannot put a higher percentage. If we have got 32,000 cases, and that number grows on a daily basis, but we are confining that 2% on cases that are active in that particular financial year. But we are increasing it by 1% and the other year by 1% again. Then there is a question that is asking what needs to be done to reduce litigation. Litigation starts from the departments. What is happening is that we engage departments to ensure that cases are settled at letter of demand stage. Most of the cases, for instance, there is no need for departments to send cases for motor vehicle collisions, which can be settled earlier at the stage of the letter of demand. I can also mention that in SAPS, this is what is happening. All letters of demand in respect of motor vehicle accidents are settled at letter of demand stage, unless the merits are good. That those cases can be defended, and they are sent to the offices of the state attorney. So what needs to happen is also you will find that there's litigation in respect of promotion of access to information. The departments are encouraged to have proper record keeping in order to avoid these prior applications. Because if one looks at the expenditure that relates to prior applications, that is where the attorneys are now making a lot of money by the department not just answering a letter requesting information. Then the other one is what is done to mitigate or improve the briefing of females and young counsel. Here, the first challenge that we are having in some of the bars, especially the smaller ones like Mafikeng, Bisho, and also Mthatha, you will find that there are very few females, young female counsel that are practicing in those bars. Though those offices, they rely on the bigger bars. So they import counsel from places like Johannesburg, Cape Town, and Pretoria. But for Cape Town, I'll speak about Cape Town briefly. For Cape Town, I also mentioned this in our stakeholder engagement last Monday. What we want to do is to get counsel of 0 years to 5 years, and have a project of ensuring that in respect of those briefs that are not complex, that we target counsel of 0 to 5 years. And we are not going to, I mean, the focus is going to be those young entrants into the profession. But we are not going to be focusing solely on female. We are also going to focus on male, but emphasis will be on females. So that is what we are going to do. And also, what we are doing and what we are also encouraging all the state attorney offices to do is to ensure that when a senior counsel is appointed, that senior counsel is paired with a junior. Those we call 0 to 5 years, we call them baby juniors. We have already started to do that. So we hope it is going to improve, and we are monitoring it. And undertaking was made during the stakeholder engagement to say this is what we are going to be doing. Thank you very much. I think those are the questions, but I can also briefly touch on the issue of overdraft. Although I know that it's between state attorneys and the CFO's office. We ensure that claims on a monthly basis, claims in respect of what has been spent on behalf of departments, those claims are sent to the respective departments for payment. There have been some engagements between the Office of the CFO, the Office of the Solicitor General, and the departments or the Department of Health in the Eastern Cape, because that is where a lot of there's a lot of claims that are outstanding. There is progress in that one. There were undertakings that were made by the Department of Health. In every stakeholder engagement where I meet the departments, I emphasize that they should pay whatever is due to them. And I've also seen that the police are starting to pay. And lastly, we have got a unit in the OSG in the OSG's office that is called performance management team. Whenever that team goes to all the 13 offices of state attorneys, they ensure that there are no claims that are in the offices. All the claims are sent to the Department of, to all the departments for payment. Lastly, on this one, in the Western Cape, what is happening is that all litigation that is handled for the provincial department, the invoices come to the state attorneys, they process them, and when it comes to payment, they are sent directly to the department, to the Office of the Premier, and the relevant departments pay directly to counsel. This is an arrangement that was done with the provincial government and the Office of the State Attorney. And if that arrangement was not there, the amount that we are talking about would be far above what we have now. We are going to consider if this same process cannot be done in respect of national departments and provincial governments in other provinces. Thank you very much, Chairperson and honorable members.
Thank you, DDG Mbeki, the CFO.
Thank you, Chair.
Please, CFO, also address what DDG Mbeki at the last part was talking about.
I think that's corporate services, Chair, first. Sorry. Maybe
Okay,
I'll ask, let's be straight to the point, take it too long. If they can just summarize the issues.
Okay. CFO, can you pause the corporate services?
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon to you and good afternoon to honorable members. The lifestyle audit project has already started in February this year. For the first phase, 3 chief directorates were identified: ICT, security services, and finance, and is being conducted by the SIU. SIU has already provided the project team and allocated resources. At the beginning of March 2026, there was a briefing session convened by the minister where all affected employees attended. We have since provided the SIU with a list of 177 employees who are part of the sample for the first phase. SIU had in the second week of March dedicated 2 project managers to the department, and they were able to receive documents and respond to questions. The progress to date is 134, 134 employees have submitted documents, which translates to 76%. We have 1 employee who is deceased. We are currently auditing the list of the 24%, which is still outstanding, to then remove employees who will have gone on voluntary retirement at the end of March and follow up and ensure submission for those that will not have submitted. We will be providing SIU with that feedback in the next week, and we will then chart the way forward on what happens to those who will still be outstanding. Thank you.
Thank you. Today.
Okay. Thank you, Honorable Chair. I will start with what Honorable Swart and Honorable Klopper raised around overdraft, with Mr. Mbeki has also explained. So the main issue here with the overdraft that we had with the Auditor General was us also, our internal controls were not in place, we're not sending invoices on time, and also the billing was not being done on time. We have improved the internal controls in that area. However, the issue of the overdraft still remains. We don't use the normal budget of the department because we bill it to the department responsible. But what we are now trying to do is to have focused discussions with specific provinces and also specific departments with the help of the National Treasury. In the previous year, we have collected around 2 billion. Yes, we closed with around 5 billion on overdraft, but most of the transactions are older transactions. Around 4 billion of it are 3 years and above. At some point, we wanted to write it off because it relates to invoices that certain departments were saying they did not receive the supporting documents. So we are working together with National Treasury and other provinces to resolve that one. But the bigger focus area for us is what Mr. Mbeki spoke about, the turnaround time, the strategy to reduce litigation. Because if we reduce litigation and we've got less cases that needs to be defended, we won't need to be managing this type of overdraft. So that is part of our turnaround strategy in the state attorney's offices that the minister is overseeing. When it comes to the commissions, by the time the president announced the commissions, it's in here and the budget process has already been finalized. That's why then we have to go through the adjustment estimate process to seek funding. Department of Justice is the one that is responsible for the commissions, and therefore administratively they become responsible also for costing the commissions and looking for funding for those commissions. And that's why the Minister of Finance announced in the budget speech in February that there is the possibility of extension, and it will be dealt with through the adjustment estimate process. That's where we get involved. In terms of Chairperson, the question from Honorable Mutau, we had already indicated that the almost 30% of the budget goes to the lower courts, which is the court admin, and then followed by NPA. In terms of the function shift, we have always worked with Office of the Chief Justice. So there's no negative financial implications because it's just about splitting what we have been incurring on their behalf, and then they will have to now, for them, if they need additional resources, they will have to approach National Treasury directly for any funding that they need. We continue to improve audit issues through the audit action plans that we have implemented successfully during the year. Thank you.
Thank you, CFO. Acting DG, you want to cover? Acting DG.
Thank you, Chair. There was a question on the.
I see you have a beautiful boardroom by yourselves there.
Are you seeing a picture of us, or do you want to see a picture? I don't know.
I already have a picture of all of you. They're seated there, dressed nicely, in a very proper.
Oh, no. No, that's good. Thank you, Chair. On the Masters, Chairperson, there was a question about whether the 15 days is doable and on why the number for Guardians Fund payments are so slow. Let's deal with the first question on the 15 days processing of a letter of executorship. Yes, it is doable. That's the current target as it is. We missed the target by, it moved up to 85% in the previous year, and we missed the target by about 2%. So achieving 80% is doable, provided that the systems are working. And as DDG, our acting CIO spoke about the measures we are taking to stabilize the ICT system. So that will also assist us greatly, together with our performance on Guardians Funds issues, to bring about greater safety in terms of our online systems. Why 60% share? In the beginning, I had spoken to the challenges of having a system that could not be rolled out throughout all the Guardian Funds offices due to its instability and lack of reliability. In fact, we are still struggling in the one office that it has been implemented, and we are processing manual payments with added security checks. So, and therefore the number has dropped because it is a time-consuming process. So 40 days is the target that we are setting at that low, but the others are paid. I think we should actually provide the numbers in detail in terms of how long does it take. If we do not meet the 40 days, how long does it take? Chair, I think those were all the questions. The rest of the questions were answered by my colleagues, and I'll leave the rest to the Minister. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Acting DG. DM.
Thank you very, very much, Chairperson and Minister and honourable members and all officials on the platform. Not any specific response. Yes.
Because the Honourable Swati, we have seen your hand. We'll get back to you immediately after they've responded.
Okay.
No, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair.
DM.
Yeah. No, I'm mindful of the fact that there might still be further questions. I think just at this stage also to express one's appreciation for the opportunity once again to have this kind of engagement with the Portfolio Committee, to be held accountable, but also to have one's wits sharpened, to have the benefit of other public representatives who have their own experience professionally and in constituencies, looking at the same thing with different lenses and really highlighting issues that one might not necessarily have appreciated in the same way. And secondly, also just the very creative and inspiring ideas that very often emerge out of these sessions. They are taken very, very seriously, and I think colleagues would also have seen in the detail to which the department has responded to things like the BRRR reports. Secondly, I think just to add my voice to those members who have congratulated Advocate Motibi on his appointment. I, of course, have done so both personally and publicly on other occasions. But I do want to just underscore that there are great expectations on his shoulders indeed. I had the opportunity to address a anti-crime imbizo in Rustenburg a day or so after his appointment. And to announce that appointment really brought about an electrifying response from those in the audience, both those who are involved directly in law enforcement, but also, and most importantly, citizens. So you do have our support, and I think that support and confidence is very well placed. Chair, just 5 very brief points. The first is that I do think we need, and it's touched upon in the APP targets, but of course, really very much in passing and in a somewhat technical way under the broad rubric of outreach. But the issue of defending our constitutional democracy and our national sovereignty, I think, are absolutely key imperatives of the moment. And it is something that we would also appeal for support from the Portfolio Committee and Parliament as a whole. And I think that's accentuated by the fact that the President in the State of the Nation address spent quite a lot of time reflecting on 30 years of the 30th anniversary of the adoption of the Constitution, but also making the point that organized crime is the most serious and immediate threat to our constitutional democracy. Which brings me to my second point, and that is that a number of members have raised what they characterized as a mismatch between ambition and capacity, or alternatively engaged, and I think in a very sober and fair way, asking the question whether some of the targets are realistic. And just to give members the assurance that those concerns were definitely not absent in the Minister and I's minds as we engaged with the department on these matters. But I think members should also see that we haven't, in a blanket and shotgun approach, said, let us just elevate targets for the sake of elevating targets. Those targets that have been elevated find themselves in very, very crucial areas that have a direct impact on the most vulnerable in our society, and also have the possibility, if executed correctly and timeously, to have a catalytic effect on our justice system and our justice, crime prevention and security system as a whole. So they were indeed quite carefully and judiciously chosen. My third point, Chairperson, revolves around the legislative program. And I raise that also because that's one of the areas that the Minister has delegated to me, is to exercise oversight over the development and the execution of the department's legislative program. We do have a very ambitious, yet also very necessary legislative program. And I think members would see that we've gone beyond submitting a program just for the current financial year. We've also avoided just having a big melting pot wish list of all pieces of legislation. What has been submitted to the Deputy President is a very carefully considered and phased approach to our legislative program for this year, the next, and leading up to the end of the mandate of this Parliament. Our appeal, Chairperson, would be, and we say that understanding that many members of the Portfolio Committee have had to spend considerable amounts of time on the very vital and important matter of the ad hoc committee, but really an appeal that we try as quickly as possible to free up the necessary time for the Portfolio Committee to devote to that legislative program. Our concern is that a big part of this year has already been taken up. We also know that local government elections are on the horizon and that we will be called upon to do what we must do. But if together we can just really make sure that we try to expedite the execution of the legislative program. Fourth, I think the minister has spoken, and I'm sure we'll speak again about questions around the single judiciary and the judiciary-led court administration. I think that we are on target in terms of the first phase, but the second phase, I think, is both very exciting, but also somewhat daunting in that it will require our collective wisdom to think through some quite difficult and complex issues in the best interests of advancing our constitutional democracy. And lastly, I just want to, I think it's a point that the Honorable Klopper also touched upon in raising the questions around the specialized courts designed to deal with economic developmental issues and whether and the expansion of other courts, whether we had considered the entire value chain. And I think it's a very good question. But I would appeal to the Portfolio Committee to make the point in its reports to Parliament and its engagements with other portfolio committees. Can we please also, at the level of parliamentary oversight, start having a much more integrated approach that asks the difficult questions to say, if you are going to resource one component part of the criminal justice system and the civil justice system for that matter, it is going to have knock-on effects. If we increase the resources available to the police to effect more resources, but we don't have a concomitant increase in resources for the NPA and for Legal Aid South Africa and others downstream, it is invariably going to create, at the very least, backlogs, but more seriously, it has the potential, if not managed correctly, to cause instability and disruption within our criminal justice system. So it's an appeal from our side on that front. But thank you very much.
Thank you, dear. Minister.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thanks, members, for the issues that have been raised. I think quite a number of them have been raised, responded to, all issues from Honorable Brittenbach, Honorable Swart. Just one thing on Honorable Swart, the issue of alleged political interference. If Honorable Swart can say, you see, when you're a political head and somebody says there's political interference, I can assure you, members, I never interfere, neither have I been involved in this case. Definitely.
You become the first suspect.
I become the first suspect. That's why I must make that declaration up front. I'm not involved in the case, have never been involved, have never instructed anyone, nor am I aware of any detail in relation to this case. So if there's political interference, it must be somewhere not on the portfolio, by the portfolio leadership, and would like to know, because we are very clear and deliberate about no interference by political leadership on the portfolio, especially on NPA. That has been a deliberate decision by myself, working together with the DM. So if there's any other political head or any other activist or politician that gets to instruct people, that gets to say the following, would like to know that. And that's why I always even caution the colleagues about themselves, never making sure that they meet with political leaders, because these things comes out and I would not defend them. So would equally, like NDPP has said, I would like to know who is the person that is alleged to have made political interference to the NPA so that we can deal with it definitely. Honorable Klope, one thing that I want to say, which I think it's not a correct analysis, because if we leave it, we might leave it with a context that we are ambitious, but we don't have capacity. The issue of capacity there, what we are talking about, so it's to be able to have, we've got people, for example, if you look at masters, you would have people, but the issue, the challenge is that, are you having them pitched at the right level? So that we can be able to, for example, I have a view. You can't say a master office in Johannesburg must be led by a director. So it's those things that we are addressing, and that's why the structure is being reviewed to see that it's fit for purpose. And that's what we are responding to. Not that we are not fit to be able to meet the targets. We're putting ourselves under pressure because the areas that we're dealing with are quite sensitive, and we can't pitch the targets and what we want to do low. And also, This is what the portfolio committee has raised with us. So we've gone back to look at your BRRR reports. We've gone back to look at your APP report when you did that analysis and gave report and what has been adopted. And we've particularly gone back to address those issues that you've raised with us. You've raised the issue of targets that are too low. You've raised the issue of targets that are not fit for purpose. You've raised the issue that we are not dealing with the core that impacts on the people. And that's why we've responded. The issues of state attorneys, the issues of master's office, the issues of ICT across. So you can see deliberately we've gone to look at what has been raised with us by both the public, but also yourself as public representatives, having heard from stakeholders, having gone to oversight, and what are the issues that, and but also ourselves, our interaction with our own stakeholders and our employees that we had to deal with. In relation to the ICT, yes, we did. I did make those comments. That's why we've subjected all the employees into lifestyle audit in that branch. But secondly, the issue of the service providers, I spoke about it at the beginning. You had service providers, for example, that would be extended perpetually. You couldn't, so we stopped that. We really looking at ensuring that you can be able to build capacity. And that's why the acting CIO there talks about what we are currently doing. So other things, we've even had to go and request assistance from SIU. We've gone to request assistance from the Hawks in terms of opening cases. So we do have those that we have dealt with. But again, in terms of internally, where we are looking at if there are people we are finding having done wrong, we are acting. We have charged officials. We are dismissing officials within the department. So I thought that I should speak to all other issues have been responded to. Lifestyle audit will continue across the portfolio as we have committed. Chair, you raised the issue about the criminal records and IDEC and the investigation. What we have taken a position as the executive was for us not to interfere with the works of investigations, but because we don't get involved to the detail, we are allowing for the process of those investigations to be done to verify if the allegations have prima facie evidence for us to be able to deal with. So we haven't received the reports. Once we receive the reports from both the ad hoc committee and referrals to us by the Madlanga Commission, we'll definitely act. As we speak now, nothing has been made as a reference, and we don't want to act on everything that is out there because some of the issues are not factual. Some of the issues we find that somebody makes an allegation and then the committee will have to do those. So once we receive those specific cases, as the executive authority will definitely act. As the NDPP said, IDEC has an oversight judge, but also from our side where we could be able to act in terms of our authority based on the NPA Act and the Constitution will definitely do that. So we'll look forward to the report to be able to. One matter that was referred to us was in relation to an investigation that they asked. Actually, I had two issues that they were referred and that are being processed, one that relates to Advocate Johnson. I can say that that was a formal complaint that was lodged with me. That process is ongoing. Once it's done and we have concluded all the processes, we'll communicate publicly. The second one was in relation, was not in the ad hoc committees or that, but came through when we were doing the NDPP appointment process in relation to Advocate Karen. And that was also referred to the NDPP, the previous NDPP, and that also is ongoing. Once we are done, we'll be able to. And I must say, Chair, where we receive investigations or complaints, we do act on them, we do clear them. For example, we had a complaint against the head of the DPP in KZN. A full investigation was done, a report was produced, and I issued a statement to say, from the reports that we have received, there is no prima facie evidence that says there is a case for her to answer. Because, for example, they would make reference that she was at a particular point when cell phone towers and everything are evaluated, you will find that her story corroborates. She was not at that area, she was somewhere else. Registers and statements are made to qualify and support her statement. So we look at that in detail. There are several of them that I get as well sent to the NDPP. Where I still want answers or they are not clear, I send back, and also we communicate. So we'll definitely communicate those investigations as they conclude. And I can assure you, Chair, that the Office of Ethics and Accountability has been doing quite a lot of work, and I've been asking them for reports in terms of the matters that comes through to us. Recently, we had one of Mr. Zulu from KZN who also lodged a complaint. Is being investigated, and I've asked the NDPP, they've given me a report. I've said, let's talk to the complainant so that the complainant can see the work that you have done to be able to clear. So we are doing our best, Chair, to rebuild the confidence in the public domain in terms of our prosecutors. And I say this, Chair, because sometimes a blanket approach is through that all of them are not good, and then we can discourage those who are doing well. I want to say there are men and women within NPA that are committed, that are doing well, but where we have wrongdoers, we'll definitely deal with them. Honorable Swart as well dealt with the issue around, I think it's Swart or Kloppe, that talked about the issue of prosecutors and people that are being killed. Our mandate, Chair, is limited. So we can only deal with those that are within our portfolio in terms of where we have evidence or there are inquiries or there are issues, risk assessment are done, both in terms of our magistrates, our prosecutors, our judges. Work continuously happens every day where we receive information of potential risk. We protect them. Evaluation is done. We link with subs where we need to, and then we link with various areas. We increase their security around them so that they can be safe. So work, it happens. Even investigators in SIU, sometimes they receive threats, then they are protected. And that's why you would have seen last week, I issued a letter to magistrates as well as SANEF to request them that when broadcasting this case is high profile, what would they call them, high profile or high crime, organized crime cases, we are appealing to them that they must not show the face of the prosecutor and the face of the presiding officer, which is either a judge or a magistrate, because they put them seriously under risk. They get identified years down the line where we have moved on. They still live under protection. They still live under fear because people either in those gang-related people then continue to chase them. So it is important for us to pay attention. But what we are doing now in terms of the protected disclosure is for whistleblowers. When they know, we provide mechanisms for state individuals who, when they say we are working under sensitive matters, therefore we want protection to be provided. But similarly, we want to urge again, all of us as public reps, to encourage all those who feel that I am dealing with a sensitive matter, because we have no way of knowing, can go forward to say we are requesting protection, and subs can do it to ourselves, can facilitate even through the witness protection or either SIU when there are investigations. But we could have mechanisms within the state to be able to protect them. So they shouldn't be keeping quiet. But for the department, beyond the mandate that we have, we can go and protect everyone because it's not within, that is within the subs mandate that they are able to do that work. The last point I want to speak to, Chair, is the issue of Ms. Kanyile that you asked us to address. We did receive the email from Ms. Kanyile, who, according to her, arrived at the department to start at the work for the first day. Unfortunately, and then she emailed me. I responded to her immediately to say I'll institute immediate investigation within that week, requested various individuals to respond, starting with the acting DG, asking the corporate services, but also the chief director responsible in that area and the issues. Preliminary information that we are sitting with, Chair, is that the appointment was done irregularly. I have emailed her last week to give her an update to say preliminary from what we are gathering. For example, somebody decided to do the recruitment process. The appointment level should have reached the DG. It was not authorized at the appointment level that needed to be. Secondly, there was an adjustment of the salary above what the notch and the salary package of that post allows, and that was not done appropriately. We are currently in the process of institute, because there are quite a number of cases like this in the department within our HR space that DDG Corporate Services is dealing with. We have appointed a team that is assisting us to clean up around this, including, for example, somebody who actually faked my signature, Chair. You'd not believe how people can be so brave. Faked my signature last year to appoint themselves in a commission, and only because my team knows how I do submissions and how I process matters, could see that there is no way minister would have done this. The person, because I had not agreed to any increase of the salaries outside, and those who were seconded into commissions were seconded with the same salary, no adjustment to those. So this one as well seconded themselves with higher salary to a commission outside. So these are the things that we deal with, Chair. The matter of Kanyile is not an isolated case. We do have these matters that we're dealing with, and we are hopeful in the next 3 months would have cleaned up out of all these things and therefore allowed for this. What is good is that we've got a system. And because the system is there and the system works, that's why there's no way that something like this can go without being notified. That's why we land with the individual arriving, is not appointed properly, is not supposed to have started. And it's unfortunate because this individual is affected personally, but legally, we've got to follow the legal prescripts from our side. With that, Chair, thank you very much, members, for this. We continue to be available to engage. We continue to be available to account. But I think the issue around, or the other issue around commissions, I needed to clear. The president supports the commission, but the finances are not sitting with the presidency. They sit with us. And that is done between ourselves and finance. That's why it has to be with the Minister of Finance. We have committed to ensuring that there is no stoppage, there is no disruption of the commission work, all of them. And that I can assure you, Chair, we will find a way of sorting out those issues in terms of our work. And we've encouraged AFU and SIU to continue to recover more assets and more money so that we can have money to implement the programs across the justice system. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Minister. Honorable Swati wanted to raise something.
No, Chair, I just wanted to apologize to the Minister if she was under the impression I created any aspersion against her. It was definitely not my intention. The allegation is that the CRL chairperson tried to influence the previous NDPP after laying certain charges in this matter, which I raised with the NDPP. I have on the private messaged Advocate Matiba with the particulars, and the main question was whether there was any such attempted intervention. And then, of course, the decision of the NDPP on the criminal charges. And all this is in the public domain in affidavits before the High Court, as well as it being a matter of great public interest given the various faiths that are concerned about proposals from the CRL Rights Commission to regulate religions. This is a matter that is being dealt with as well extensively by the COGTA Portfolio Committee. So I just wanted to give the clarity to the Minister. There was no aspersions at all against her or any of her staff or anyone from the department of any form of political interference, and I apologize profusely if that perception was created. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Honorable Swart. I think we've taken note of that, and thank you for clarifying this issue. And the minister is correct that when there is a suspicion that there is political interference over the prosecuting authority, we become the first suspects unknowingly that we may be involved in some of issues relating to influencing how the NPA does its work. And thank you so much, Honorable Swati, for clarifying this matter. Colleagues, I think let's thank you, Minister and the team, for this very precise presentation. This is part of our accountability framework, and we'll keep on to deal with an issue by issue meetings that we're going to have with you. There are a number of issues that would like to attend to as part of the accountability process. We're going to deal with them, some of them. We'll write a letter to you and deal with an issue by issue thingy. We'll write a letter, Minister, to you to brief and ask a question in relation to what has been submitted to Parliament on record of about 3 IDEC investigators who have got previous convictions and the related matters. Fortunately, the committee secretary is also the committee secretary of the ad hoc committee. So I think so that we give you a proper detail so that you know what to respond to. Colleagues, the reality is our democracy is maturing. And as when society is evolving, the demand and the need for the services of this portfolio are growing by a second. And we can be honest that even a 1 trillion rands can never be enough for the work that society demands of us. But we must thank you, Minister, and the team, that you are able to navigate through a very constrained fiscal environment. We have seen, the public have seen, that even though the Madlanga Commission itself had hiccups at the start, but it's fully operational now. We know the issues surrounding the TRC Commission and the court cases relating to that. We know the issues relating to the Ngabinde inquiry, people not wanting to come back and all those things. We have sat and watched practically the inquests that relate to the Craddock 4 and the Mklengis. It's part of the work that is before the eyes of our people. That in spite of this constrained fiscal environment, we are able to show the people of South Africa that we can be able to deliver justice where it is most needed. And that work requires courage. We are not going to be complainants, because that's what strategic leadership demands of us, that we must provide solutions even at the time when we think that the situation is untenable. And Minister, quite frankly, from what we are seeing as the members of this portfolio committee, there is work being done. And challenges are always going to be there. But what matters the most is how we navigate through those challenges. That at the end of the day, we must deliver justice to the people of South Africa. Today, the people of South Africa, even those who denounced the establishment of the Madlanga Commission, are now celebrating it because there is work being done for the people of South Africa. And of course, we are going to get a backlash from here and there. But what is important is that strategic leadership demands of us to navigate through the challenges that we're facing and never complain about our own challenges. I think we're receiving this annual performance plan, Minister, warmly, and the budget warmly. Part of what needs to be on your diary as a priority within this financial year is to do away with the acting. Let's do away with the Hollywood style. Within this financial year, look at what you have budgeted for, what posts have been budgeted for, and the time frames onto that, so that we stabilize the institution. There are a lot of issues that would have been raised by members here. And sometimes it's genuine concerns from the portfolio committee. There's an issue relating to, would have planned before we got interrupted by the ad hoc committee, would have planned to go to the Wynberg Magistrate Court, the Athlone Magistrate Court, and there's another court, I think it's in Randburg, where we must actually see and oversight security at courts. See if it's actually possible that we are at the wrong, or what are the actual issues relating to those things. You know, in Wynberg, a person entered with a firearm and shot someone inside and still escaped. At a place where we are supposed to have our people highly protected. So the people who are attending court, all the court parties, including the presiding officers, their lives are actually at risk if this can happen under our watch. So it's one of the issues. I remember I got a letter from Honorable Breitenbach about this, that we are still having a pending meeting, Minister, to deal with issues relating to security at courts. NPA, I know we have got a backlash, NTPP, when you got appointed. And some called us that we're handpicking people because we want to achieve this particular objective and all those things. All that we can say to NTPP and the team of NPA is that do your work diligently. Honorable Matafa always says, we are always available to give support to our institutions. But our support must be complemented by an effort that we see that there's an effort being done there to address these particular matters. And we give you, Advocate Mtibi and the team, full support as this portfolio committee. And when we have issues relating to how prosecutions are handled, we are going to call and have a meeting with the NPA. Of course, you're going to give us that statistics in terms of all the matters, particularly murder issues and all those things. We'll receive that so that it is going to enable this portfolio committee to perform its oversight roles properly. And we repeat, you got our support. Part of what has been at the center, part of what has been our headache, is the issue relating to the high-profile matters and how we have handled them. And I know we would have had overnight calls with the minister and Advocate Maga, having headache about how some of these things are being portrayed in the public discourse. And it becomes a worry to us because we represent the people of South Africa. So when there are issues that are projected very negatively about our institutions, we get very worried. So part of what Advocate Mtibi you need to attend to is the issue relating to the high-profile matters and the extradition matters. We know that the prosecuting authority won't beg the Cholota issue in court. And we commend you for the steadfast work that you have been doing. We are going to give you support, but as Honorable Matafa usually says, our support is conditional. We see you making an effort. We support you fully. So we need to address all the issues within this financial year that relate to. We see the budget is growing in the outer years, but the reality is still, if you go to 28 billion rands, the demand that we have from our people and all the services that we provide as the portfolio will always need something more, way more than that. But we are able to navigate through what we have. With the limited resource that we have, are able to navigate through. And part of what we want, Minister, to encourage you on is to ensure that the sister departments do pay the debts that they owe us. It will help a great deal. We see AFU is also working on the other side to increase what we have in the CARA fund. And we appreciate that. South Africans are now seeing a state, a government on duty. We owe it to them that we must do away with criminal elements in our streets, in our communities, in our villages. And by that, we'll need more resource. We have committed to have a meeting, Minister, with the Appropriations Committee, a joint meeting with the Appropriations. I've already spoken with the chair, Mr. Musimaiman. We want to take stock of what are our budget shortfalls, then engage the Appropriations Committee on what we think must happen in the near future. But even though even in that we've said, it's not a bottomless intervention. Those who spend less, we have no reason to go and argue for them to have an increased budget. Some of the institutions that we have we in the portfolio have got a very little budget. But even though the budget is very small, some of them are even unable to spend the small budget. And they are not giving us mitigating factors on how do we then argue for them to get an increased budget. So, colleagues, once more, we want to thank you. We want to pledge our support on the work you are doing. And of course, as I said, our support is actually conditional. Where we see that we are going astray, we are going to come and intervene where necessary. And we'll be doing that not because we want to pull a fight against anyone, but we'll do that for the best interest of the people of South Africa and for the best interest of supporting you to better perform your work. So, colleagues, thank you very much. Minister, Deputy Minister, Acting DG and the team, the National Director of Public Prosecutions, and all the delegation you are leading NTPP from the Prosecuting Authority side. Members, thank you so much for those insightful interventions to the report. We are going to work hand in hand in ensuring that we support the department to ensure that it performs the best it can. So thank you so much, colleagues.
Thank you.
And we're going to meet Minister tomorrow.
Yes, thank you, Chair. We'll meet tomorrow. Thank you, member.
Having and the Public Protector South Africa. We thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, NDPP.
Thank you.
Meeting is adjourned, colleagues.
Thank you, Chair.
Recording stopped.